The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
Good morning. A Defense Force officer arrested in Florida. Capital grant allocations topped $500,000 for each MP with no public reporting. And the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights raising concerns on immigration and poor implementation of disability laws in the Bahamas. Let's have this morning. I'm Dwight Strachan, and this is Morning Blend.
Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. Don't you know that it's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning again, Bahamas. It is Friday, April 24th, 2026. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Again, I'm Dwight Strachan. In a moment, Ricardo Wells will be here with us. Also this morning in our business section, our history series continues with the Clifton Heritage Authority. We're talking about just exactly how slavery what slavery looked like in the Bahamas, and here in New Providence at the Wiley Plantation, specifically in Clifton. That's all ahead, but first it's time for the overnight, the latest breaking news from while we're sleeping, and the top national and international headlines this morning. In the overnight, a member of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force who had been absent without official leave since August 2025 was recently arrested in the United States. The Defense Force confirming this yesterday. The officer was apprehended in Florida by U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents. However, details surrounding the arrest remain undisclosed by the authorities. According to the Defense Force, the individual had been absent without leave since August 2025 following his last reported day of duty, which was initially recorded as sick. A statement from the Defense Force saying that despite sustained efforts to locate him, he remained unaccounted for until his recent apprehension. It says that an internal investigation is ongoing and the matter is being addressed in strict accordance with the Defense Force's established disciplinary actions or standards. The member's discharge process has already commenced. And the Defense Force says it's expected that within the next 1 or 2 days, he will no longer be a part of the Defense Force. The statement says that Commodore Floyd Moxey has consistently emphasized that the force will not tolerate conduct that undermines its integrity. The Inter-American Commission on Human Rights has raised concerns with the ongoing practice in the Bahamas of deporting irregular migrants, notably Haitian nationals, without proper assessment and the inconsistent implementation of disability legislation and lack of accessible infrastructure across all islands. In its latest 2025 Human Rights Report, the Commission praised the Bahamas for the establishment of a Parliamentary Human Rights Committee and notes efforts to implement the recently enacted Ombudsman Act. It also noted the decrease in homicides and ongoing efforts to improve the efficiency of its judicial system. And it said that the country was still challenged on the rights of people with disabilities, immigration, marital rape, and the rights of women. It said that on the rights of persons with disabilities, it highlighted that the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities received a significant budget increase to expand programs such as life skills training, independent living initiatives, and free accessible transportation. It also noted that the government launched new grants to support entrepreneurs with disabilities. But it said that challenges remain in ensuring consistent implementation of disability legislation, expanding accessible infrastructure across all islands, and addressing persistent stigma around mental health in particular. The total constituency capital grants allocated for members of parliament this term amounted to more than $20 million, but taxpayers remain in the dark on what that money was used for. There's still no legal requirement for any public reporting on the spending. And there's still no established freedom of information regime. The constituency capital grant is allocated for each MP to undertake various projects in their constituency. This term allocations amounted to more than $100,000 per MP. A murder suspect who escaped from a police station has been sentenced to 8 months in prison. 37-year-old Joycelyn Smillian escaped from custody briefly on April 20th before he was captured and formally charged with the March 19th murder of Cameron Munnings, whose bullet-riddled body was found in bushes off Cowpen Road. Smillian pleaded guilty to escape and causing damage at his arraignment before Acting Chief Magistrate Ancella Evans around 6:50 a.m. on that date. Smillian was allowed to use the bathroom at the Elizabeth Estates police station to change for court while officers stood outside the door. But Smillian apparently removed a pane from the bathroom window and fled. He was captured in the area of Sumner Street before noon. In court, Smillian said that he escaped because he was stressed out. He claimed that he wanted to see his girlfriend and daughter. He received 8 months for the escape and will serve 2 months at the same time for damaging the window. Investigations continue into the country's latest murder. A 55-year-old man of Coral Road shot on Coral Road off West Bay Street. This happened last night. According to reports, police were alerted around 10 p.m. by an anonymous caller reporting that a man had been shot. Officers went to the area and discovered an unresponsive adult lying next to a Ford Taurus with apparent gunshot injuries. The initial report suggested shortly after the incident, a dark-colored SUV was seen leaving the area onto West Bay Street and traveling eastbound at a high rate of speed. Police are actively working to identify and apprehend anyone responsible for this. Overseas, Iran's top diplomat and Pakistani officials today talking over details of the ceasefire in the war with the United States and Israel, part of an effort by Islamabad to get Tehran to send a delegation for a second round of negotiations with Washington. Pakistan has been trying to get American and Iranian officials back to the table, but talks that had been hoped for earlier this week didn't materialize. U.S. President Donald Trump announced an indefinite extension of the ceasefire with Iran at Pakistan's request earlier this week, as it sought more time for diplomatic outreach. That hasn't lowered tensions, though, especially in the Strait of Hormuz, the strategic waterway through which a fifth of the world's oil and natural gas is shipped during peacetime. Iran has kept its stranglehold on traffic through the strait, attacking 3 ships earlier this week, while the U.S. has maintained its blockade of Iranian ports and ordered the military to shoot and kill small boats that could be placing mines. Washington now has 3 aircraft carriers in the region after the USS George H.W. Bush arrived in the Indian Ocean this week. The USS Abraham Lincoln is in the Arabian Sea, and the USS Gerald R. Ford is in the Red Sea. And the new UN-backed international force charged with combating Haiti's violent gangs has received more pledges than the 5,500 military and police it's seeking, with troops from Chad already deployed in the capital. The UN Special Envoy to the violence-torn country, Carlos Ruiz Macio, telling reporters after briefing the UN Security Council that staggered deployments from Chad and other countries are expected to continue in the coming months, with all 5,500 members on the ground between the fall and the end of the year. The United States and Panama proposed the new gang suppression force in early September 2025 to replace a Kenya-led multinational force plagued by a lack of funding. Its strength hovered around 1,000 rather than the 2,500 that was desired. The UN Security Council authorized the 5,500-strong force on September 30th with the new power to arrest gang members. More than $200 million has been pledged by 13 UN Security Council member states, of which $59 million has been dispersed. A UN spokesman saying Thursday that Qatar confirmed a pledge of dollars to the trust fund for the force, with $10 million to be paid over 3 years. Havana will not abide by any American ultimatums to release political prisoners as part of new talks. That's according to a Cuban diplomat speaking Thursday, while asserting that leaders are preparing for all scenarios if U.S. President Trump makes good on threats to intervene in the island nation. In an interview with the Associated Press, Cuban ambassador to the UN, Ernesto Ceberon Guzman, saying internal issues regarding detainees are, quote, not on the negotiating table. The release of political prisoners was a key U.S. demand as the longtime adversaries held discussions in Cuba this month for the first time in a decade. He said that, quote, we have our legal system, like here in the U.S., they have their legal system, so we have to respect both of our internal affairs. In response, the U.S. State Department said in a statement that the administration remains committed to the release of all political prisoners. An American delegation arrived for secret meetings in Havana on April 10th in a diplomatic push to urge Cuba to make major changes to its economy and political governance or face continued economic pressure and potentially risk U.S. military escalation. Neither side has named who took part, but Guzman said that it was at the Undersecretary of State level for the Americans and Deputy Foreign Minister level for the Cubans.
This is Sports Update.
In sports, after 23 games, Jazz Chisholm Jr. is homerless, no more. The Bahamian professional baseball player with the New York Yankees hit his first home run of the season, curling a shot around the right field pole to get his team on the scoreboard against their rival, the Boston Red Sox, on Thursday. The Yankees end up winning 4-2, sweeping the Sox at Fenway Park in Boston. They have now won 6 games in a row, the second longest winning streak in the majors, and it comes after they would have lost 8 out of 11. Chisholm became the last Yankees regular starter to hit a home run this year. He jumped on the first pitch he saw from Sox left-handed starter Peyton Tolle in the top of the fifth inning. A 94.8 mile per hour four-seam fastball sent it deep to right field for a solo home run. And from the NFL, the draft began last night. Fernando Mendoza's journey from overlooked two-star recruit to the top of the NFL draft is complete after the Las Vegas Raiders took him with the first pick Thursday night, turning the Raiders into a contender is the next challenge for the Heisman Trophy winner who led Indiana to its first national championship. The 22-year-old quarterback wasn't in the Steel City for the festivities, Pittsburgh that is, choosing instead to celebrate with family and friends at home in Miami. Mendoza, flashing a big smile after Commissioner Roger Goodell announced his name, put on a Raiders cap, and began hugging his family while seated on the couch. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles Rams surprised draft experts by taking Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson with the 13th pick. Simpson, who started just 15 games in college, was among 16 prospects who came to Pittsburgh, even though many draft boards had him going in the second round. Arizona took Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love with the third pick. Love is the highest running back selected. On Barkley went number 2 to New York, the New York Giants in 2018. Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate was picked 4th by 10. Surprise move that gives QB Cam Ward, last year's number 1 overall pick, a top target. The Giants took Reese at number 5. Adding a potential elite rusher, less than a 3-time Pro Bowl defensive tackler Dexter Lawrence to Cincinnati. And the Chiefs traded up to number 6 to take LSU cornerback Mansour Delane, Kansas and Cleveland, the 9th pick, along with numbers 74 and 148 to move up. From the NBA, Jaden McDaniels and the Minnesota Timberwolves flexed even more of their defensive muscle against the flagging Denver Nuggets, seizing a 2-1 lead in the first-round NBA playoff series with a dominant 113-96 victory Thursday night. McDaniels had 20 points and 10 rebounds. Rudy Gobert followed his inspired Game 2 effort against Nikola Jokic by stifling the 3-time MVP again on an ugly 7-for-26 shooting night. And the Timberwolves established a postseason franchise record by allowing the Nuggets just 11 points in the tone-setting first quarter. Meanwhile, C.J. McCollum hit a fadeaway jumper with 12.5 seconds left to ruin New York's night again, leading the Atlanta Hawks to a 109-108 victory and a 2-1 lead over the Knicks in their first-round playoff. Thursday night, after starring in a Game 2 stunner at Madison Square Garden, McCollum got the ball with his team trailing by a point. He came through again from 15 feet, finishing with 23 points. The Hawks led nearly the entire game, building an 18-point lead in the first half, but New York rallied for a 108-105 edge on Jalen Brunson's three-point play with 103 remaining after Jalen Johnson, who led the Hawks with 24 points, rolled in a shot. Josh Hart missed a three-pointer for the Knicks. New York got the offensive rebound, but couldn't get off a shot ahead of the 24-second clock. That's sports, and that's the overnight. Time for your first look at weather. Your first look at weather brought to you by Star General. An eastward shifting high-pressure ridge continues to produce light to moderate winds while weakening. Meanwhile, a mid to upper-level disturbance from the Gulf will spark bouts of showers and thunderstorm activity this afternoon through tonight while moving east. There's a moderate to high risk of severe weather this afternoon into the overnight hours, and everyone should be paying attention to alerts from the Department of Meteorology. And there is a marginal risk of rip currents for the Atlantic waters of the islands, as well as sheltered areas of the southeast Bahamas. Swimmers exercise caution when entering these waters. There's a slight risk of rip currents across most of the rest of the country as well. For today, for most areas, we're looking at partly cloudy to cloudy conditions. We've got about a 20 to 40% chance of showers, increasing to 30 to 50% chance of isolated thunderstorms by this afternoon, especially for the northwest Bahamas, and even greater chances for rain in the central islands, up to 50 to 70% chance by this afternoon with isolated thunderstorms. Same story for the southeastern islands. Winds for the extreme northern islands, southeast to south at 10 to 15 knots, but occasional gusts during the afternoon hours. And for the northwest and central Bahamas, east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots with occasional gusts during the afternoon hours. For the southeastern islands, easterly at 15 to 20 knots. We're looking at high temperatures around 81, 82 Fahrenheit today, about 28 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to the low to mid 60s for most areas. Southeast Bahamas could be a bit warmer, low 70s even. That's your first look at weather this morning. We'll have an extended outlook coming up in just a bit. This weather check brought to you by Star General Insurance, made simple.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up.
It is time for a break, but when we come back, we're discussing the day's top stories right here on Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9, your home for fresh news and smart talk all day.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
Looking to elevate your gadget game, or a tech trouble simply slowing you down? Escape to a world of innovation at Custom Computers, your go-to store for the latest cutting-edge tech. Whether you need to upgrade your life with the best from Apple and Windows, or your device needs a little, the Custom Computers Know-How Store is the destination for unbeatable expertise and quality repairs. With 2 convenient locations, there's a Custom Computers near you on Patton Street in Palmdale and Caves Village, or call 396-1100.
5 years of PLP rule. Are you better off today? While you work, they've spent millions on taxpayer-funded trips, a government-funded luxury car, and handed out hundreds of millions in no-bid contracts. But for the rest of us, gas and groceries through the roof, VAT on bread basket items, healthcare that is broken, unaffordable, and out of reach. And it's not just your wallet. For 5 years, illegal immigrants have flooded our communities, putting excessive pressure on our schools, our housing, and our social services. As they flood in, Bahamian families fall behind. Under the F&M, there will be a change. The F&M has a plan to address the rising cost of living, secure our borders, protect Bahamians from illegal immigrants, and fix our health care. Because the F&M knows our job is to work for you and not the few. This message was paid for and authorized by the Free National Movement.
At CFAL, we understand that a secure future is the greatest gift you can give your employees. That's why our tailor-made group pension solutions are designed to fit the needs of both large and small companies. With CFAL, you can provide the retirement you and your employees deserve, ensuring peace of mind and financial stability for years to come. Join the many businesses that have already entrusted CFAL to create the right pension plan for their employees, and let us help you build a brighter future for your team. Visit us at cfal.com to get started on building wealth so you can live well. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations.
CFAL is a proud sponsor of Team Bahamas for the 2026 Carifta Games.
The unsung heroes give us pride in the present, hope for the future, and most importantly, become living examples of the best that we can be.
CIBC Caribbean wants to reward the unsung heroes in our communities. Do you know someone who's been doing outstanding work in their community or performed an extraordinary act of heroism, bravery, or kindness in the last 12 months? Nominate a hero today. Go to CIBCCaribbean.com to learn more.
In the world of business, technology is not a choice. It's a necessity. And for businesses that demand excellence, there's only one choice for unparalleled support and cutting-edge technology. Custom Computers. You have challenges and we have solutions. Computing, networking, storage, and printing for enterprises large and small, aligned with premium brands like HP, Microsoft, Konica Minolta, and more. Get tech done the right way with Custom Computers. Call the know-how team at 396-1101.
5 years of PLP rule. Are you better off today? While you work, they've spent millions on taxpayer-funded trips, a government-funded luxury car, and handed out hundreds of millions in no-bid contracts. But for the rest of us, gas and groceries through the roof, VAT on bread basket items, healthcare that is broken, unaffordable, and out of reach. And it's not just your wallet. For 5 years, illegal immigrants have flooded our communities, putting excessive pressure on our schools, our housing, and our social services. As they flood in, Bahamian families fall behind. Under the F&M, there will be. The F&M has a plan to address the rising cost of living, secure our borders, protect Bahamians from illegal immigrants, and fix our healthcare. Because the F&M knows our job is to work for you and not the few. This message was paid for and authorized by the Free National Movement.
No one likes a fender bender.
Oh, man.
From a little scratch to a full mashup, NUA Insurance has got you covered with auto insurance tailored to fit your needs and budget. For affordable rates with free on-site accident assistance, visit us online or in branch and just ask us. NUA Insurance. Ask us because we've got you covered.
This is Minister JoBeth Colby Davis. When one power line faulted, the whole neighborhood used to go dark. Now, a breakthrough in technology finds the problem and reroutes power so more homes stay connected. That's reduced outages by 86%. Upgrades like this mean lower operating costs and lower bills. Instead of temporary fixes, we're building a modern grid. Choose more reliable power. Choose progress.
Paid for by the PLP.
Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Street, has those hard-to-find fasteners for you right now. You can find stainless steel regular hex, carriage bolts, galvanized bolts, threaded rods, nails, self-tap screws, sex bolts, anchor bolts, turnbuckles, masonry tools, hand tools, and weed whacker strings. Check out the rope selection and car body fasteners, too. Special orders are welcome. It's your #1 fastener store. Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Streets. Call 326-1976.
Make Mother's Day unforgettable with Kelly's House and Homes starting Friday, May 1st through Saturday, May 9th. Save 20% on a lovely selection of dinnerware, glassware, luggage, silk flowers, and picture frames, except on net items. We have beautiful gifts that let Mom know just how much she's appreciated. Stop early and enjoy 20% off at Kelly's House and Home during our Mother's Day sale, May 1st through 9th. Happy Mother's Day with love from Kelly's House and Home.
We do not choose to do work for recognition, but work that is worthy of recognition. We dare to find niche solutions to fill the voids within our communities.
CIBC Caribbean wants to reward the unsung heroes in our communities. Do you know someone who's been doing outstanding work in their community or performed an extraordinary act of heroism, bravery, or kindness in the last 12 months? Nominate a hero today. Go to CIBCCaribbean.com to learn more.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's the start.
Welcome back to Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas, Channel 969, and BTC Flow, Channel 612. You can tweet us at Morning Blend 969 or Facebook.com/Morning Blend 969. Text us 4224796. Standard text rate supply. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. Joining me now, Ricardo Wells. Ricardo, good morning.
Good morning, Dwight. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you with us as always. Friday, is it the final Friday of the month? Yeah, wow, it's gone already.
Yep.
So, boy, a lot going on in the news. We'll get to that in a bit. But also this morning, our monthly series with Clifton Heritage Authority, looking at exactly what was happening here in terms of slavery. A lot of people don't like to talk about it, but we had some interesting things going on, especially at Clifton itself and the Wiley Plantation. We'll get into that this morning. That's all ahead. But right now, let's go to what's in the news. And in the news, quite a few interesting stories in the papers. Let's talk about a few of these. So this one here, RBDF officer arrested in Florida. This guy's had an interesting few years. A member of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force who had been AWOL, absent without leave, since August 2025, recently arrested in the United States. The Defense Force confirming this yesterday. The officer was apprehended in Florida by U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents. However, details surrounding the arrest remain undisclosed by authorities. So, according to the Defense Force, absent without leave since 5 when he was initially recorded as sick. Despite efforts to locate him, he remained unaccounted for. And, until this recent apprehension with the U.S. So,
yeah, I'm trying to figure out the efforts to locate him.
Well,
that's like...
You mean you don't think they did enough?
Is it so hard to just check flight records? Like he's clearly not in New Providence.
Would you go through all that if an employee just doesn't show up anymore? Would you go through all that, or you just?
I don't look at the Defense Force as just normal employment.
Oh, okay, interesting.
You're a Marine. If a Marine goes AWOL, you go to length and breadth to figure out where that Marine is. He's trusted in our nation's defense. So what was the process to try and locate him? Did we look at passport records? Did we look at all these things? I have to question because he was out sick, on leave. He didn't apply for extended. He was out sick. Where was the line of communication? That part just stuck out to me.
Oh boy. Well, so the force said in a statement, an internal investigation is ongoing. And the matter is being addressed in strict accordance with the Defense Force's established disciplinary standards. The member's discharge process has already commenced, and it's anticipated that within the next 1 to 2 days, he will no longer be a part of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. Wow. The Defense Force also said that Commodore Floyd Moxey has consistently emphasized that the force will not tolerate conduct that undermines its integrity or violates the law, saying that, quote, any member who finds themselves on the wrong side of the law will face swift, decisive, and uncompromising action. All right, so does this mean that you think he was still being paid during this time, 2025, August? I mean, it's a long time.
This is why so many questions. Even if you're arrested in the U.S., isn't there some sort of international communication that comes to the officers here in the Bahamas that say, hey, there's a Bahamian citizen that was apprehended for whatever reason, to notify maybe their families here to let them know what is going on? Was there no communication between this officer and his family? Like all these things, I just don't understand how he's arrested last August and we're now just getting notification.
No, he wasn't arrested last August.
Sorry. He was out sick last August.
Right.
Now just getting notification that at some point in the last couple of months he was arrested.
Yeah.
Like, did he travel to the U.S. illegally? Like, all these are questions now I need answers to.
Oh my. Well, yeah. It's a little, slightly more. Well, there's a little break on the story in the Tribune. So, a Royal Bahamas Defense Force member who had been absent without leave since August 2025 has been arrested in Florida by U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents. In a statement, the force said that able mechanic Ray Strachan, we know his name now, had been unaccounted for since his last reported day of duty, which was initially recorded as sick leave. Despite efforts to locate him, he remained missing until his recent apprehension in the United States. Well, we will see if we learn more. These investigations, so many are ongoing, and we never seem to find out what comes out of them.
Did any of the reports indicate what he was arrested for?
No, not yet. No, not yet. So we will try to find out. We'll see. But things make you go There's another story involving a Defense Force officer. This is also in the Tribune today. A veteran Defense Force officer has pleaded guilty to 3 counts of physical assault in connection with allegations that he assaulted a group of female Marine trainees earlier this month at the Force's Coral Harbor base. Chief Petty Officer Eric Roll changed his plea from not guilty to guilty. Last week, he appeared before the Royal Bahamas Defense Force facing 5 counts of assault and 1 count of drunkenness. Lieutenant Darius Adams, the Defense Force Public Relations Officer, confirmed Roll remains interdicted. He said the accused appeared before the Defense Force's authorized officer, who recommended a warrant punishment, a formal disciplinary procedure within the military, where a commanding officer recommends a sentence which must be approved by, in this case, the Minister of National Security. Lieutenant Adams could not explain what penalties Roll may face. Roll initially faced 5 counts of assault and 1 count of drunkenness. However, Lieutenant Adams confirmed the charges were reduced to physical assault. Oh, my goodness. Lieutenant Adams said, quote, "The prosecution was satisfied with these 3 counts." Regarding the drunkenness charge, Lieutenant Adams said it was no longer being pursued. Roll, described as a 21-year veteran of the force and a trainee instructor. Okay.
I don't even know how to approach this.
This
story.
is, my God, what?
At what point does charges within the Defense Force escalate to actual criminal charges?
Before it goes to the police? I mean, what type of assault is this? This sounds like a crime.
They made it clear it's physical assault, so chances are there was some sort of fight or some sort of, physical harm done to somebody trusted in his training program.
Was it all at one time? Like all of them, they ganged him, or he ganged them, or like consecutive?
He clearly was the one that, was responsible for the attack. But I'm still trying to figure out at what point does it escalate to actual criminal charges? Because if enough evidence is there for him to enter a plea agreement, how is it not enough evidence for him to be charged criminally for his assault of these 3 trainees?
Okay. All right.
But at least we could say there's swift justice somewhere. Swift justice in the Defense Force. Really good work by the Defense Force. Swift justice.
Sure. So many questions. Drunkenness too.
I would like to know what led to those charges being dropped. Was it determined that he was not drunk, or it was just to prove that he was drunk? Which is it?
Mm-hmm. Just tipsy, maybe. Man, oh man. Okay, that's wild. This is an interesting story. It's sad, but also amusing. In the Tribune today, 67-year-old woman admits to stabbing stepson over cursing. A 67-year-old woman who stabbed her stepson in the back at their Adelaide village home last week for cursing her was ordered to be of good behavior for 6 months. Freddie Mae Strachan, there's too many Strachans in the news today, I don't know what's going on, stabbed Ed Roy Smith, who's 47, with a knife at their home on Israel Street on April 17th. She pleaded guilty to causing harm before Deputy Chief Magistrate Shaka Serville. Strachan said she stabbed her stepson because he kept messing with her and had cursed her. She returned to court on April 30th for further consideration of a sentence, when the complainant is expected to address the court on how the incident.
I assume the stab one wasn't like threatening.
Well, apparently not. Okay. But my goodness. I mean. Well, I mean, nobody should be cursing anybody, but if you were to stab everyone who cursed you,
Jesus Christ,
good Lord, right?
He probably should have just stopped nagging her. That's like
messing with her. Messing with her. That's what she said. In the back, though. But hey, wow. It's probably the first thing she's ever done.
Proceedings yesterday, because this is a lot. It's a lot.
There's a whole lot more. We don't have the time to get to all of it. Wow. Everybody needs to calm down, right? Everybody just needs to calm down. Let's all calm down. Okay. So let's move on. So this was interesting. I saw a clip of this on the. So strange, the reactions that folks give when they don't like the questions. So the headline here is Colby Davis dodges questions over collapsed energy deal. So, with a major energy deal unraveling and millions in financing under scrutiny, Energy and Transport Minister JoBeth Colby Davis offered little clarity yesterday, declining to explain the collapse of a key New Providence grid management arrangement. Pressed on the breakdown involving Bahamas Grid Company and Island Grid, which we talked about quite a bit yesterday, Colby Davis cut off further questions, telling reporters only, quote, "We spoke to it and a statement went out." She refused to elaborate.
I don't know how y'all dare ask that woman any questions, because that's the vibe I got from her response.
You should have seen her face. Her response came after the abrupt exit of Island Grid, led by U.S. Energy Executive Eric Pike, from the project. Well, I mean, I don't know if I'd put it like that, but okay. They're not the managers anymore, at least. Right, and which had been promoted as a cornerstone of energy reform, but has now fallen apart less than 2 years into a 25-year agreement. Again, I don't know if we can say that. This is the Tribune, by the way. But I don't know if that's exactly what's happened. Fallen apart is
why?
I don't know if that's accurate.
Given the lack of information.
Well, we never had information from the beginning.
This is what I'm saying. So given the lack of information, how else do you kind of position that report? You have to position it as the facts that you know. We know they had some sort of agreement in place. What has been reported is the length of that agreement being around 25 years. We're in there too. Those are the facts.
Well, we are assuming that they're still going to be getting the money for 25 years. They may be, we don't know, involved in management and decision-making, maybe, who knows, for 25 years, but they're getting money. That ain't going to stop. We have no indication that that's stopping, and that is also concerning. But there's a lot of murky stuff here and a lot of questions to be answered.
We won't know, and I hate to say it like this, we won't know the specifics of the deal unless the PWP government loses the coming election.
Oh, wow, he went there. Okay.
Yeah, it's the only way we know. It's similar to what we found out after the F&M lost the last election about their grid deal. We heard all of this about the LNG plant, and then we found out once the F&M was voted out of office. Oh, they had signed this lease agreement with these people to do this, and then it was a whole bunch of uproar. So we're not going to know the specifics of this deal, where it fell apart, what were the issues? Is this as a response to what happened a few months back? Like, we won't know until, God forbid, well, not God forbid, this government is voted out of office. Like, that's the only way you find out this sort of information.
Wow.
in this
Okay.
country.
Well, my God. Yeah. So in a
But
state,
I do want to be clear with one thing. Her response to this matter should be ringing alarms for all Bahamians.
Well-
Because this was a deal that was touted. I think if you go through social media right now, she has a political ad speaking about, the grid solution and all of this.
we heard it this morning. It was just on this show.
Oh, wow. See?
Yeah.
That should ring alarm bells, because you have to now question, hey, if you're not going to be honest with us with how our money was spent or how much more of our money is still being spent on this deal, come on, man. We got to be better in the public space.
And just because you issue a statement doesn't mean that people will understand what the heck is going on. That statement didn't answer a whole lot of questions. In fact, it raised more questions than it answered.
There we go.
So, yeah. So, in a statement issued on Wednesday, the government sought to frame the development as a transition rather than a breakdown, pointing to new leadership at Bahamas. A reminder of that, it said that, quote, the public should also be assured that the ownership structure of the transmission and distribution assets remains unchanged. See, they're still going to be getting their money. The only change at this time is the move to a Bahamian-led operating team after the completion of the foundational phase. That is a transition the government welcomes. We have full confidence in the Bahamian leadership now in place at Bahamas Grid Company. And as I said yesterday, they had been advertising the search for a CEO for Bahamas Grid for some time. That went out months ago.
Go back to the original issue around this entire thing. When we first heard about this deal, Bahamas Grid Solutions was presented as the company that was responsible for distribution. This is off the tail end of what the BPL deal was. We were led to believe that the Bahamas Grid Company was responsible only for distribution. We were then told that Pike was responsible for erecting new lines and running all the wires and doing all that stuff. So is this statement now saying he's still responsible for distribution? We're now just in the process of trying to find them a new partner that's going to be responsible for the new lines and all of that. Is that what we're supposed to take away from this statement?
I don't know why you would think that. That doesn't suggest that. And again, just because the leadership team is no longer in place doesn't mean that the relationship is severed. That Pike folks won't still be working as part of Island Grid, helping BGC, doesn't mean that. Even though, for a different reason, a lot of the Pike people left. Now, this is all happening at the same time, and that's causing greater confusion. Is it coincidence that it's happening at the same time? Is it related? Is it what's going on, right? Again,
I feel like you've been around this rodeo long enough to know when something off.
Well, usually something's more off than on around, especially when it comes to electricity, right? But yeah, there's still a whole lot of questions, and so we don't appreciate JoBeth Colby Davis. The statement does not answer most of the questions we have. Most. Well, if you missed it, the government said in that statement that Dario.
I have to ask before we move on. When was it announced that? I keep forgetting Pike's first name.
Eric
Pike. When was it announced that he was sitting as a part of the leadership group for Bahamas Grid Company?
I don't think it was ever said. He was just the head of Pike, and Pike was overseeing this thing as they searched for the new leader for Bahamas Grid.
Do we have the full rundown of all members of the leadership team for Bahamas Grid?
I was about to get to that. Well, we have two names. The government said Dario McKenzie has been appointed Chief Executive Officer and Gladys Fernander, Chief Financial Officer. And describing the shift as a strengthening of leadership. It added that Eric Pike remains engaged as a contractor to complete foundational works. Transmission and substation upgrades expected to finish by the end of May. So the partnership continues, of course. And said outages have been reduced and system reliability improved. But those assurances...
So back to the point I was making. It's quite clear that the Pike Group is still involved.
Yes.
They're just trying to find a new team to finish the...
You mean
the establishment of new
the
lines.
workers?
Yes.
After the murder of one of their own. Yes.
See, I don't want to use that as the reason the Pike Group... clearly the Pike Group is not pulled out. The Pike Group is still involved in the background, so I assume they're still going to be
Through
paying.
Island Grid, yes.
Yes. But they're now going to find a new arm to finish up all the new lines, setting up all the poles and doing all that.
Again, it could be an unfortunate coincidence, the timing, right? That no one budgeted for murder. But yeah, maybe this was going to happen regardless of that. Maybe.
Let me just say for the record, I don't think it maybe was going to happen, despite of it. Why I believe that, Dwight, because if it was going to happen, you would see a build out in the process that would have indicated that at some point he was going to transition out. It was never even presented.
Which part? Which part?
Eric Pike.
No, again, they've been looking for a CEO for a long time now.
Correct.
Since last year.
We were never made aware that he was a part of the Bahamas Grid team.
What do you mean? I mean, we've been using all the names interchangeably. Pike, Island Grid, Bahamas Grid. And when you ask anybody a question, they're so confused because they tell you to talk to Bahamas Grid or talk to Pike today, talk to Island. We don't know what. It was all mixed up. It's so confusing. Who knows?
Early on, when I first saw the report, for some strange reason, I remember Bahamas Grid being completely separate from Pike. And the questions were raised at the time, who comprised the team of Bahamas Grid?
Nobody.
It was every time that, hey, a part of this Island Grid team is Mr. Eric Pike, who's also... That's the way I interpret it.
Well, I don't know why you would. I mean, this is, in fact, I want to call some other names, but I won't. This is Pike. We saw Pike trucks everywhere. More Pike trucks than BPL trucks. Pike was on top of my house. Pike was everywhere. Pike has been everywhere. It's been Pike. It's always been Pike. Now you're seeing some Bahamas Grid trucks, but it was Pike from then, and I suspect it's still Pike. But we've got a Bahamian CEO of Bahamas Grid now. So,
still want to know who's all a part of the Bahamas Grid team?
Those two names you heard. That's probably it. No, I did see some workers yesterday. They look like Bahamians. So I don't know what to make of that. To get the answers, I think I told all of you a few months ago, I did reach out to Bahamas Grid, and they told me at the time they weren't prepared to do talk shows yet. They said give them a few months. So we'll see. Maybe we'll get the CEO on soon.
I like I keep saying, I just remember that Bahamas Grid was separate and apart from Island Grid. I think Pike was associated with Island Grid.
No. Pike is a company. Island Grid is their Bahamian subsidiary, and Island Grid has 60% in Bahamas Grid. The government has the rest.
I specifically remember Island Grid only being a management team hired to do work within Bahamas Grid. I don't know why I'm remembering it like that. No, I probably have to look at my records or something.
60% ownership. 60% ownership of Bahamas Grid.
I know we're going to open the phone lines at some point. Any caller out there that could go back in the records to see when we established Island Grid as a firm holding or had a firm footing in Bahamas Grid Company, please let me know.
What is Bahamas Grid? It ain't a thing.
No, Bahamas Grid Company was no? Okay.
I mean, it's a special purpose vehicle.
Right.
Yeah, whatever. 323-6232. 325-4316. It's whatever they want it to be. 325-4259. They're still getting all the money. It's still, nothing has changed in terms of that. What name is here and what name is over there, you don't worry about it. Just they're getting their money. 242-300-5720 to call us toll free from the Family Islands. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us 422-4796. Caller, good morning. What say you?
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Sean, and good morning to Ricardo Wells.
Good morning.
You know, I like the way Ricardo's thing, but Dwight, You almost catching up, Aaron. You had me laughing all morning. But listen, I just walked in for about 15 minutes. But, as I relate to what Carla was saying, I didn't went down this labyrinth, right? But I been on too many during the pandemic. But I did remember a conversation with C. Allen, and just listening on and off. But I thought they had privatized distribution and transmission or whatever. I thought there was three different entities as privatization. I mean, privatized. But for me, I don't know if it's a form of plausible deniability, but the only thing I can say is Pike took a hike and somebody's running psych. And so, I listened to the line, maybe today is Friday, maybe Monday or so. I didn't get to listen to the rebroadcast, but I hope in Lang would really do a show on this because I don't even think it was about Pike, but it was somebody that asked a question about a public-private partnership. And Lang was commenting on the said debt that the government had to still pay off or still was committed to like paying off a deal, even though the partner had exited the agreement or whatever. So I would really like for him to comment on that and to go down this rabbit hole, because I kind of lean in. I kind of have an understanding more like what Carla was talking about, but then I listened to you. I kind of agreed with you, but it's for me in the public. I'm very and tired of these type of demeanor towards the public, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Well,
really
clearly
would like to
the
see
government.
maybe about 30,000, 50,000 go down in Washington Square. And I wouldn't really like to say what you know what I mean. Maybe just show some rocks, man. You get it.
Well, I don't know about that one, but thank you very much. So the government's stance clearly is, hey, y'all just worry about your power. It's on more frequently than it used to be, and be quiet over there. That's what it seems like they're saying. I don't know. Pike hasn't taken a hike. They haven't taken a hike, but anyway. This texter says here, oh boy. Wow. I don't know if I can read this. I don't know how do you know this information, texter? Were you there? Did you see this? Oh, this is about the Defense Force guy.
Okay. Yeah, no.
This is serious. I mean, I want to read this, but I don't know. Boy. No. Oh. Anyway, wow. That's a lot. Okay. How can you mess with someone with your back turned? I know who they're talking about. I mean, what does that mean? Who said that he was messing with her with his back turned?
Well, I used the word messing, and you corrected.
No. She said he was messing with her. But she stabbed him after, I guess he was walking away or whatever. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Dwight. You said you shouldn't be what? No, what are you hearing? I said you shouldn't be cursing people. That's what I said. I said, but if you were to stab everyone who cursed you, there'd be a big problem, I'm sure, because people around here are cursing people every minute. This person says here, with this energy deal collapsing, oh boy, what does this say about the proposed deals related to the Grand Bahama Power Company then? I don't know if we can say the deal is collapsing. The deal has changed, and what does that change entail? But I don't know if it's fair to say the deal is collapsing. Someone just sent me a video of Pike trucks. They say this was yesterday. Pike trucks still here.
I tell you, I think they're only trying to find workers. They're only trying to find.
That's true. As you heard, they have work to do still till at least the end of May. Right? That's what they're saying. I don't think it's a coincidence, Dwight. Just convenient timing, but they are definitely not telling us everything. I really hope we. Oh boy. I know this is a tough text. No, this sounds really personal. I can't read this text. This person has a personal problem with someone related to this. How can we say the Pike Group is still involved when just a day ago he sent them, Delia wrote the note message and wished them all well, giving them the smackdown and exited the ring? He's still getting the money, though. Is Pike involved in the same way that the group is involved in the Grand Lucayan? Because that deal disappeared into the unknown and something appeared in its wake. None of that is... I don't know about any of that you're saying. This person says your massive budget overruns, arrogance, lack of accountability, and here we go again, having to vote out a government as opposed to voting one in. What? While it is hoped that Pintard would be different and better, the harsh reality is that unless he dares to buck the trend, he will be in some ways handicapped by the oligarchs in his party who would have contributed to him being elected. Okay, other than Pindling, he would be our this is what is this text? This is
it's Friday the White. This morning.
This is a future that we don't. Okay, what? Okay, the person's responding. It's not personal. I've met this person before.
What?
They didn't like the minister's response. They went through a long thing about. And wow, that's a lot. Let's take this call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, what's up, Dwight?
All right. Good morning.
You got plenty Kong salad going on, man. That's when you don't understand and don't lay the deal on the table. You got so much companies mixed up in this thing. But
you know what? It's plenty names. I don't know how many companies. It's plenty names.
It's two companies. It's the government, right, which owns BPL, right? BPL generates power. They ain't giving up the generation of that. Then you got Pike coming in here through their subsidiary Island Grid, which is local company. You know?
Yes.
Bahamas Grid is the government arrangement with Pike.
Yes. The special purpose vehicle.
Yeah. So Pike Island Grid sits on Bahama Grid board to have that ownership share. So the same thing would go on with all of these declarations and trusts and this and that. So it's all about them separating companies to sit on the board. So I think he's removing himself from off the board, but he still owns that Pike, that local Island Grid company.
Island Grid, right. So Island Grid is Pike. Pike is Island Grid, yes.
Yeah.
That hasn't changed.
Island Grid still has a big share
60%. 60%. The majority interest.
Yeah. Of Bahamas Grid.
Well, what has changed the White is his workforce is no longer present on the island. That is what has changed.
That's a different thing.
Again, what people have to understand, if they was always going to leave. They were always going to leave. I think they exited early based on what happened. Right? Allegedly, they exited early based on what happened. But they were coming to the end. They were here 18 months. So they're coming to an end, and they were supposed to transition into local guys on the ground through the Island Grid. You know, but they're coming back, I think, to finish up some of the some more work.
Yeah, the time is still made.
They were transitioning. Yeah, they were transitioning.
Yeah.
But that's why we need clarity. We need clarity on the deal, man.
Absolutely.
So we would know if they were there for 2 years, 18 months. Now the Pike situation, I think. That's supposed to be a 5-year management. And I think that ended early. So we just need clarity on what's going on.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Again, the financial arrangements haven't changed. That's the key thing to note. So this 25-year deal is still intact. Still intact. All right. We got to go to the news. We'll pick this up on the other side. A whole lot more to talk about on this Friday morning, final Friday of April. Can you believe it? 2026. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Stay with us.
Американская фирма Transceptor.
Like the son of the whip, I snap attack, front to back, in this thing called rap. Feel like a double rhyme double on a heavenly level. Bang the bass, turn up the treble. Flash for mine day and night all the time. 714, live the line. Maniac, Brainiac, winning the game. I'm the lyrical Jesse James.
Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app. Nassau, Bahamas.
Welcome back to Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at Morning Blend 969 or Facebook.com/Morning Blend 969. Text us 422-4796. Standard text rate supply. And now at 8:20, it is time for another check of your weather for today, brought to you by Sherwin-Williams. So we're expecting some interesting weather today heading into the weekend. There's an eastward shifting high-pressure ridge that continues to produce light to moderate winds while weakening. But a mid to upper level disturbance from the Gulf of Mexico is going to spark some bouts of shower and thunderstorm activity this afternoon through tonight while it moves to the east. So possible severe weather in the central and southeast Bahamas expected through Saturday afternoon. Some improvements expected by Saturday evening as the system moves away from the area and out into the Atlantic. A weak pressure pattern and a drier air mass will settle across the country for the remainder of the weekend. And by Monday, a frontal system is expected to linger north of the islands through to midweek. And that could possibly produce some light showers across the northern islands. Get into May, expect some occasional showers and generally light winds for these final few days of April. So for today, the severe weather activity. There is a moderate to high risk for severe weather this afternoon into the overnight hours. And there's a marginal risk of rip currents for Atlantic waters of the island chain, as well as the sheltered areas of the southeast Bahamas. So swimmers are advised to exercise caution while entering those waters. There's also a slight risk of rip currents across most of the country today. So your forecast for today, most areas looking at partly cloudy to cloudy conditions. We've got about a 20 to 40% chance of showers for the first part of the day, but that's going to increase to a 30 to 50% chance for the northwest Bahamas, including New Providence, by the afternoon, and even a higher chance for the central and southeast Bahamas by this afternoon, a 50 to 70% chance of afternoon showers and isolated thunderstorms. Temperatures today hovering around 81, 82 Fahrenheit, 28 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight in the low to mid 60s for the northern half of the country, mid to upper 60s, even low 70s for the central and southeastern islands today. So look at a range between 19 to 23 Celsius. In your extended outlook for your weekend, Saturday, partly cloudy to cloudy. Elevated rain chances for the central and southeast Bahamas. And by Sunday, expect a mix of sun and clouds during the day, mostly fair at night. And pretty much the same for the start of the work week on Monday, heading into Tuesday. That's your Morning Blend weather check, brought to you by Sherwin-Williams. Sherwin-Williams has what you're looking for: premium paint, pro tips, and everyday deals that make it easy to get started. $8:23, time for the check of traffic, brought to you by NUA Insurance Agents and Brokers. We've got a number of hot spots to tell you about. As usual, Milo Butler is one of those. Heavy traffic from Fire Trail straight up to Tonic Williams Darling Highway. That's northbound lanes. You'll see that there. And that's going to head into New Providence Highway. But if you are approaching the six-legged roundabout on the John F. Kennedy Drive, you'll see John F. Kennedy Drive side. You'll see issues there. Heavy eastbound traffic at that point. Then we've got Blue Hill Road, very heavy traffic for you near St. Vincent, but especially as you get closer to Carmichael and Soldier Road, you'll see that heavy northbound traffic all the way up to Independence Drive. Independence Drive back to both directions right now, east and westbound. And East Street, also seeing slow-moving traffic north and south of the Soldier Road intersection. That's northbound mainly there. Heading back west, we've got Gladstone Road seeing some slow-moving northbound traffic. And on West Bay Street, just east of Arawak Key, you'll see that slow-moving traffic heading into downtown Nassau, especially near Nassau Street. So eastern New Providence, we've got Prince Charles Drive as usual. At the major intersections, very slow-moving traffic. But once you get past Beatrice Avenue, you'll see that long line ahead of you as you make your way into some interesting things happening on Robinson Road. There might be an issue, so keep that in mind if you're heading westbound. And heavy traffic all the way up to Old Trail and Marathon, East-West Highway. Soldier Road north of that intersection with Prince Charles, Robinson Road, seeing some slow-moving northbound traffic to the intersection with Bernard, Wolf, and Village Roads. And Eastern Road, slow-moving traffic from about Fox Hill to Johnson Road westbound at this hour. That's your real-time traffic and your Morning Blend traffic alert, brought to you by NUA Insurance, agents and brokers. Whether you prefer a face-to-face chat or handling things online, they've got you covered. Visit NUAinsurance.com for an instant motor quote or stop by your nearest branch today.
No one likes a fender bender.
Oh, man.
From a little scratch to a full mashup, NUA Insurance has got you covered with auto insurance tailored to fit your needs and budget. For affordable rates with free on-site accident assistance, visit us online or in branch and just ask us. NUA Insurance. Ask us because we've got you covered.
Here's the Sure-winning art store moment from Shelley and Dee Dee.
We're the only full art store in the Bahamas. If we don't have it, we make a list, and trust me, our boss can get that. If you need that, he can get that. You can find sketchbooks, acrylics, the canvases in all sizes, stencils. We have the Angelus that they use on shoes and letters. We're the only persons in Nassau that carries the Montana spray. We have the Krylon sprays, watercolor in paints, the oil, chalk paints, the alcohol paint, metallic paints, the little Floetrol, and we have cleaning products for the artists, thinning products for the artists, and Crayola colors, and glitters, pencils, the Posca markers, and pastels, all dyes. Oh yeah. We also have airbrush paint. I didn't forget that part of the movie. Gift sets, hobby craft,
Oil shrimp,
clays.
stew shrimp, shrimp gumbo. But arts, we have a lot of them. Sherwin-Williams Art Store. Find color in every day.
Foreign commercial banks have been closing across our islands. For thousands of Bahamians, our country's post office savings banks are a lifeline, providing safe and secure banking. But Michael Pindart says,
we will abolish the bank through the post office system.
That's a risk Bahamians can't afford. That's why the Prime Minister is making post office savings banks stronger to protect Bahamian families and small businesses who rely on them. Paid for by the PLP.
At Marco's, we make it better. Better ingredients, better flavors, better quality. A signature sauce that families have always counted on. We are not only serving your family, but our families too. 2 medium, 1-topping pizzas with center squares or cheesy bread for just $29.95. When you want pizza you can trust, choose Marco's. Your family deserves the best. Marco's Pizza, crafted with love.
This is Minister JoBeth Colby Davis. When one power line faulted, the whole neighborhood used to go dark. Now, a breakthrough in technology finds the problem and reroutes power so more homes stay connected. That's reduced outages by 86%. Upgrades like this mean lower operating costs and lower bills. Instead of temporary fixes, we're building a modern grid. Choose more reliable power. Choose progress.
Paid for by the PLP.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas.
We are back with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Ricardo Wells on this Friday morning. Who's got the power? Who's got the power? Bahamas Grid, Island Grid, BPL. So many names, so many companies, and so many questions. So many questions about what's going on. Yeah, Ricardo, we got a lot of text messages on this. Let's get to those. We can take more calls as well. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Call us toll free, 242-300-5720. Before we get going, I just wanted, this is my daily reminder now on the show. I've been doing this for how many weeks? The question is like, did I miss it? Did the commissioner of police say anything about the other police-involved shooting? It's been more than a month. Ricardo,
No.
did you?
Nope.
What was that? What?
Nope.
No? Still?
Nope.
A man was murdered. Or we're not calling it murder? What? Nothing? No investigation? No charge? Nothing?
Until after the investigation has been completed.
Is there investigation? We don't know how the cop was apparently, off-duty officer was hit with a cutlass. We don't know his condition. No one said a word. Nothing. Nobody. Nothing at all. What is really going on here? Is it just me? Am I the only one who finds it curious? Ricardo, no, you're not.
I'm almost certain you're not the only one, Dwight. But this is the space we're in.
What does that mean?
This is the space we're in.
What? I don't understand what that means. Huh?
These things aren't taken as serious as you think it should be. At least a formal investigation should have been completed. That report should have come back to the public. That's not been done yet.
But not even a name? Officer blah, blah, blah was hit by, he was sustained injury. Nothing? We've heard nothing. The investigation continues into what led to this, and he's been placed on leave, half pay, duty. Something?
I think
we need some blood because he lost a lot of blood when he was hit by a cut. What, something? Nothing? What am I missing?
Might be living in Elmo's world.
Which one, me or them? Wait, nobody else is worried about this?
I think everybody...
You sure? I don't hear anybody talking about it. It's only me, and it's every day I'm asking, and no one says a word. The commissioner, the national security minister, the deputy commissioner, they got 100 assistant commissioners. What?
100 assistant commissioners is hilarious to me.
Is it not true? I think there's an assistant to the deputy. I don't know. Yeah?
Yeah.
They have under police commissioner, no, under and... Anyway, no one's saying anything. What is the deal? And the public...
I think they'll eventually get there at some point in time.
What is that? As I keep saying, I said it a few weeks ago, but it's not a joke. When you go out this weekend, you've got to ask. When you walk into that restaurant or bar or pub, you say, "Hey, anybody here, an off-duty officer?" You gotta make sure. Just make sure, and ask them if they have their service revolver or whatever they use on them, just to be on the safe side. What?
Would you actually get an honest answer? That's the question.
Well, that's very interesting. Okay. Be concerned, folks. That's really, really weird, even for the Bahamas, that there's been no information about this. And we joked about it a few weeks ago, but maybe we need to say something to the U.S. Embassy. Say that we hear that guy was actually an American, that victim too, so maybe you could put some pressure on the police force to respond. Tell him he's been to the States several times. At least that should count for something. Can you please now talk to them? He was just there last year. He was just...
I say I hate to laugh in such a serious situation, but your statement is he's been to the States several times.
That should at least count for something. Now can you look into it? Because if you don't, apparently nothing's going to happen.
Welcome to 2026 Nassau, Bahamas.
No, I refuse to accept that.
I don't know. Maybe we can today on the campaign trail. I'm almost certain we could get an answer at that point.
That's when they'll start talking about Pike. Wait, what? Wait, what about... Okay. Can you believe... I'm missing something. And I'm disturbed. All right, we got some calls. We'll get back to Pike and Bahamas Grid and Island Grid and all that in just a second. Let's take this call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning to both of you.
Hi.
Good morning.
Yeah, well, don't leave Pike yet. May I just address something about this?
Sure.
Okay. A dear friend of mine asked me to size up for him the cost for him to go completely solar with his house. And I had to advise him the first place we start is with what you pay your kilowatt hour usage for the month, and then we can work from there. Okay. So we realized that it's going to cost him about $35,000 for his 12,000 kilowatt hours, 1,200 kilowatt hours that he's using every month. What I had to share with him was simply this. After 8 years, those lithium phosphate batteries, which are the ones that I'm recommending that he use, are going to have to be replaced. And that will probably be before he even break even. So he would be going deeper into debt before he breaks even. And I think those who are considering this renewable, whether it's solar, wind, hydroelectric, geothermal, whatever you want to use, you have to factor in those batteries and the lifetime and where you're going to be breaking even or not before you actually see some benefit. And I think Pike and those who are trying to, or whoever's trying to bring solar here, they know that after about 8 years, it's going to have to be replaced, and there's no cost benefit when you compare if it's not set up properly. So we need to factor that in, and maybe they know, and persons don't tell you that, but you need to figure that out, okay?
Okay, I hear you. I mean, I think there are other alternatives, aren't there? But you do need to weigh everything. I think there's similar pros and cons with generators as well, right? So many things. I'm not sure about whether it won't pay itself off before that happens. I think there are a lot of variables, but it's something that everyone needs to consider. Absolutely. Okay. Some text messages. This person says here, Pike has not left, and there is no deal collapse. Pike is contracted to do the transmission line upgrades and then leave. That work is ongoing. Yeah, that's what they're telling us, at least until the end of May, at least until then. And I keep saying, they did advertise the fact they were looking for a CEO months ago. They did. So we knew this was coming. It's just the timing is very interesting because of what was happening with the Pike workers, and then the language of Eric Pike, But, we're in election season, and to say now that the company's under Bahamian management might be appealing to some people as they go into the polls, right? No? Ricardo, that wouldn't sway you? That wouldn't convince, don't you think, some people?
I agree 1,000% with you, Dwight. I just think for the general public, coming off of what happened in the incident, the murder of the Pike employee.
By an off-duty police officer, another one, right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Correct. Coming off of that, and now you're hearing that, hey, these persons left the island, that is what raised the question. And I think now what's coming out of the statement by the minister kind of raises more questions. Because you're saying that the statement kind of resolved this issue, but the statement only raised more questions. So I think that's where all the difficulty is. Right now, we have the understanding that the crop of Pike workers that were in country are no longer here. But Pike still has, from a grid standpoint, a lot more work. Well, not a lot. I think they said, 25% or something like that still remaining? They're supposed to be here for another couple of weeks. That work now still needs to go on. Yeah. Are we going to hire linemen locally? Are we going to import a new group of linemen? What is going to happen with that aspect of the deal? That's what everybody is still trying to work out. Right. I think the structure of the deal between Pike and Island Grid and all, That still starts. That is clear. That still starts. But the actual work that is still left on the pike end of the clarify.
Well, the only people who can answer this, as soon as the Bahamian managers of Bahamas Grid can start talking, the better.
Oh, I don't think they can answer this at all, the way.
No?
I don't think they can answer this at all.
When you ask these questions to BPL, they keep telling you to talk to Bahamas Grid. And there had been no one at Bahamas Grid to talk to.
I keep telling you, we're not going to get any full layout of this deal or anything that came out of this situation unless the government changes.
Wow.
Unless the government changes. There's no other way. This is the only...
It doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like, but I doubt they'll talk before the election.
I beg of you to share with us, the general public, the other way.
You can't go on the past. You gotta. I mean, it's easier to go by past records, yes, and if we go by that, then obviously you're right. But it doesn't have to be like that. Now, I don't think these folks will talk before the election. That's a sad thing, and that might be in their best interest. But
fingers crossed, toes crossed.
Well, I mean,
get down to some other which way. But to me, I don't see any other way.
Yeah,
I don't.
Wow. Let's take this call. Good morning, call. You're on the air.
Morning. Yes, I am a victim of BPL and Bahamas Grid.
Uh-oh.
For 13 months, I've applied. I paid my deposit. No one responded, including customer service. We took it to IRCA now because there's a serious issue going on. This is a new construction. We paid $5,000. We got an invoice 2 months ago after waiting 13 months. And they have not responded on why we haven't had anything installed. So there is a serious issue.
Okay, slow down. Tell us from the beginning. So you said BPL and Bahamas Grid.
You're right. Yeah, and they tell me to call. Tells me June 2025. Okay, we're just waiting for Bahamas Grid, or you'll have to go to Old Fort Bay.
Oh.
So I asked, where is it in Old Fort Bay?
Right.
They don't know, right? So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they don't. Yeah. So they're somewhere in Old Fort Bay.
Somebody's house.
Yeah, that's probably where it is. And so June of 2025, the gentleman I was dealing with, he said, okay, as soon as I move over, he worked at BPL, as soon as I move over to Bahamas Grid, I would give you a call and you're first in line. This is June 21st, 2025.
Oh, my God.
I reached out to the minister because of the frustration. She was able to get me an invoice 2 months ago so I could at least pay for the services, right? Guess what? We sent an email on what's going on to even the legal team because it's costing us HOA fines. It's costing us all kind of issues if this continues because it's slowing down our construction. Nothing. None of the executives, nobody responded, so I turned it over to IRCA. Because this is a serious violation. It's almost legal now.
Okay, so this is the thing we want to find responsible for now and what Bahamas Grid is responsible for now. So what specifically did you need from Bahamas Grid?
Bahamas Grid, it appears, I can't say because they don't tell you anything because I don't know what it is. But, these people aren't trained. They didn't tell me anything, but I assume I need the installation of the line to run to the pod in my house because it's a gated community. So you need that line ran there.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't do that at BPL anymore for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm stuck here with this big 5,400 square feet home and no power.
My goodness.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Creditors, HOA, and all of this stuff. This is a serious major lawsuit I'm building up because I cannot deal with this inefficient country continuously doing things like this to taxpayers.
So what is the latest excuse? What's the reason why
I wish they could respond. So because they haven't responded in 2 weeks, we turned it over to IRCA for them to respond, the regulators.
Mm-hmm.
I am a victim, and I'm telling you, you know what it is, 13 months?
That's crazy. That's crazy. And you've only ever spoken to that one person from Bahamas Grid?
I spoke, nobody ever called. PL customer service said, call Bahamas Grid. They don't have a phone contact. I'm sure you tried reaching them. I Googled the CEO email. It's a new person now. It used to be some some Muslim guy, and now it's Theron Mackey. Mm-hmm. He don't have an email posted. So it's like, this isn't a real company. It seems like I've been defrauded.
Well, Well,
I send money and no services, no work order or nothing. It's just incredible.
I keep my fingers crossed for you. Good luck. I suspect it's not going to get much easier.
No.
Right. Not now.
I wish other people that's constructing can call in and
Yeah.
see there is an issue.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely. Thank you for calling.
Thank
Good luck,
you.
though. Good luck to you.
Thank
Keep
you.
us posted. Keep us posted. Let us know. Call us back if anything changes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Wow, that's a nightmare. Yeah, so the company has been. It's not. I don't think you can say ghost. A ghost company. Is it a ghost company? Yeah,
I mean, that's exactly what you say in this case.
Well,
and
boy.
that's why I keep going back to the BPL was left to handle bill payment, to facilitate a payment center.
Yeah.
That is BPL's role. They are quote unquote
Collections agency.
correct. And that left all of the power generation to Bahamas Grid.
Well,
And then that left all of the line and transmission and all that other, not transmission, all of the line development to Pike. So in this case, who is now going to be the team responsible for getting the line ran to this woman's home?
well, that's a good question. Remember the last time BPO was on the show, they couldn't tell you how many people had been seconded or had agreed to move over to Bahamas Grid. But that was a challenge, always been a challenge. We don't. This is really crazy, and the only people who you know to ask, who seem to be humans, are the people at BPL or the government, right? But they
Who
keep
has
telling
made it
you
absolutely clear
Right.
that is no longer under their remit.
they don't want to answer any questions. Talk to Bahamas Grid. Who the hell's Grid?
We give the solution today.
My gosh. Wow. But yeah, the sooner we hear from new
Homework you give us
CEO.
is that lady though, because to be stuck in your home with action, you can't just get my friends together and we'll put up a line. 'Cause then, like, there's no options.
Yeah, no, that's insane. Yeah, if you have had a similar situation, give us a call. We want to hear from you. And who have you been talking to? Again, when I reached out to them, it was, I can't pronounce her name. It was somebody on social media, and she responded. But they aren't prepared to talk yet. I hope the CEO has all the answers and can begin as quickly as possible. We invite him to come on the show and make it make sense to us. Caller, good morning. You're live on the air.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning, sir. The problem with BEC, those old pole workers, the underground cable guys, all the people who used to work for BEC, they wanted a package deal to go to work for Bahama Grid and work for Pike. But what happened is they didn't get the deal. So now, since they didn't get the deal, the government put them now changing car tire, washing down car, servicing the old generators. The guys them who could do the work, they didn't want to pay them. So the guys them take the deal and say they can rather work doing other things rather than them doing the job. We have capable men who can do the job. But the problem is they don't want to pay the guys them to do the work. So that's why they bring in Pike. So the government needs to go back and let those guys them, the guys them who know how to run the country, all these grid, or how to run all the wires and underground cables or whatever, they need to put them back out on the road. They have them washing down cars, working in the garage, servicing the simple things. The main guys them what run the country, they don't want them to work. And this is where the problem come in. You know how much people building done? You know how much business is done? How much underground cables need to be fixed? They don't want to pay the guys up. You all need to go inside the Dwight. Go and BET right now and see. You all have to do the investigation. You can't listen to word of mouth because these people ain't going to tell you the truth. Go inside and talk to the guys that would work there. Please.
Okay.
Go inside.
Well, you know, that's easier said than done, but I hear you. It would be great. Thank
I
you.
have to ask a clarification. Is the caller suggesting that all of our linemen are just still being paid their salary? They're just not being permitted to work? Or is he saying that they asked for a new contract or a new industrial agreement that has not been completed, so they're just at work without working.
The last thing we heard was that many of them were reading meters, and I don't know about changing car tires and servicing cars, but they were not doing what they are skilled to do or pay, what they normally do, because BPL isn't responsible for that anymore. As you said, it's a collection agency, so it's all about getting money to pay the Pike contract.
BPL to do?
Collect the money to pay Pike.
Yeah, but what are the linemen that were paid by BPL to be linemen? What are they now doing at BPL?
Collecting money to pay Pike.
Okay. Right. I mean,
Or whatever else needs to be done. Look at that big crack in the wall. Fill that up. Paint it. Yeah, thanks.
so you're still getting a line.
Do that work at BPL anymore.
Yeah, but you still okay.
Yeah. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mrs. Straw. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Hi.
Mrs. Straw, there's also a situation down here that you call Howard Pond, my private estate and everything, where bushes or trees and vines are growing up, coconut trees, you name them, growing up to the lamp pole wires around Howard Pond. Now, I know Eric Carey isn't at Bahamas National Trust anymore. I called Bahamas National Trust many times. I have lived right on the side of the road next to Howard Pond, about at least 39 feet away from the side of the road. The bushes and everything, one time ago, Dwight, when you came down here, when I moved down here in 2006, we could look out all the ducks and birds and everything in the pond. The bushes and everything now are grown up to the point where they reach in the lamp pole wires. Coconut trees up to the lamp pole wires. We call BPL. Now, Rick Fox was around here the other day with tractors and everything to clean it down. So I said, Rick, before we touched that, the government told us they turned that over to the Bahamas National Trust. That's why we can't keep it clean. So I called National Trust. The gentleman there now, I forgot his name, he said he's going to send somebody to check it. The people he sent down there, one fella come down here with one cutlass and a truck forward him, just chopping some little trees on the side of the road. So Rick Fox had a tractor down here to clear the thing right down until we could see the lake and thing again. A beautiful view, seeing the birds and the ducks.
Yeah, well, okay, Sparky. Well, hopefully that'll be sorted out. Everything's so inconsistent here. It's very disturbing. It's only done once in a while, generally before an election, and it's really very, very sad. Let's take another call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning.
Yes, sir. I would say that our issue is that both of our governments, right, has become laissez-faire in that they privatize everything. Privatize the garbage. They privatize telecommunications. So they not only privatize this electrical. Right. So that's our issue. You see. Then we get away from that. And in fact, the PLP is supposed to be the progressive party, not the conservative party. You see, they have to become a conservative party, and their excuse is the F&M did it, so they can do it too. Look at what you call it, even the harbor. We privatize the harbor. You understand me? Yes, make it make sense to me. You see, and we got to we need an alternative government. I mean, it's okay to have a conservative government, but you should have a balance. You see, when there's no progressive government, don't call yourself progressive when you're not. You see? But anyway, all of this conservative thing that's going on in Europe and the UK, they reversing all of that. Even what you call it, the healthcare, you know what I'm saying? These clinics and things, they reversing all of that. That doesn't work for the masses. You see, they're doing the Donald Trump or the Republican thing in that the U.S. do.
Yeah, thank you very much. You got to be. I hear you. Balance is needed. Call before we get back to the messages. Good morning. You're on the air. Hi, are you there? Nope. Okay. Text messages. This person says here, this is in relation to the lead story in The Guardian today. Why is there no information given to the public on spending if the $150,000 grants to develop the constituency? My MP from Central Grand Bahama never spent money on his constituency. He's been there 10 years, and his office was open 10 times. Well, no, open 7 times for 10 years. Wow. Where did the money go? MPs need to be held accountable. This is a jokey country. We need the COI to fix it. Okay. There is an answer to this. There is a solution, but you all don't want it. You all don't want to hear it and never want to hear it. True municipal government, true local government, MPs for constituency allowance, come on.
I think Bahamians are interested in the process.
No, they're not.
I think they understand that.
You sure?
Eventually, will be corrupted by party politics.
Anything could, but there better ways to handle these things, right? It's easier. You can build in from the ground up that what can control that, right? The checks and balances for this.
I mean, we have a lot of stuff that can control this on the books right now. We just don't enforce it. We simply don't.
Yeah. Again, this is really not a sensible way to do things, right? You know that somebody who votes for an MP who ends up being in opposition knows that their constituency is always going to be handicapped compared to somebody who votes for an MP whose party is with a local government system that shouldn't make a difference. It'd be very hard to make a difference.
It shouldn't, Dwight, but it could. And that's
I don't even know how. How could it? The work has to be done whether it wouldn't even matter. You are elected. You make it.
If we had local government in Nassau, what would prohibit right now the governing Progressive Liberal Party from putting up a candidate that's a candidate from the Free National Movement? And that candidate, if elected, who is a FNM member under a PLP government, what do you propose he's able to do?
Tons of things, because he would have a budget. He would be able to do everything that he's supposed to do. It would
Literally, the lead story in The Guardian today is we don't know what our MPs are doing with their constituency allowance.
Yeah, because this system.
The only thing would be different is you would have either a councilman or mayor or some district manager that still has no account of what he's doing with the money that was allocated.
Why would that be? Why would that be?
The same reason it is now.
No. It doesn't have to be like that at all. Not at all. You'd have to show what you're doing with it. You can easily fix that.
But you could do the same thing now. You could easily fix this problem now.
Yeah. Well, if you think this is a sensible system, again, and show me where else this works, where the MP is responsible for all of this. And yet you still have antiquated laws that are not getting fixed. So what are they doing right? They're not fixing the legislation, and their constituencies look like crap, and the parks are all broken down, and yet tons of money is getting spent, but you have no way to show what's what. And their excuses for when your party is in opposition, well, I can't do anything. But you're getting all this money too. This is designed to fail.
Yeah, I think what you should also do, Dwight, I think you should put that comprehensive plan for local government back on the table. Bring it to the public. Let the public understand that there is a better way.
Yes, I will. I'm not right now in the moment in my waste of time phase. But when I get back to that, I will certainly do it. I will certainly do it. A better way. There's a better way to run a country.
All I'm saying is we've had the local government conversation, particularly for New Providence, for quite some time. I think the last government that kind of played with the idea would have been the Minnis administration.
Played with it is right, because that's all they did.
Right. So
joke around.
So it's quite clear that we're not going to ever get local government at the government level. The government is never going to do anything to put checks and balances in our systems that prohibit them from doing the things.
Only if you want it like that. There's no way governments can't talk like that. They can't. They cannot say
talking like that.
No, because y'all aren't serious. If the Bahamian people were serious about this, they would know that there's no way that I cannot do this because the people will destroy me. And so, but they're not serious. They don't believe that you will do that. And they're right to believe that because you won't. But if in other places, when they say you have not done what the people wanted you to do, you would not be out here smiling in front of people's faces. But in the Bahamas, you can get away with it. So that's why. Whatever you say, there's no place in the world where they'd say, "Oh, they'll never go for that." Who are they?
Dwight, then that means the first step is not immediate local government. It's education.
Well,
You have to
absolutely.
teach people about their civic responsibility.
That is correct. You're right about that. And we will do our part. And we hope all the others who've occasionally in the past talked about this will join to educate people on the better way. Absolutely. Absolutely. Some more text messages before we go to the news break. This person says here, find out who are the ghost investors for Bahamas Grid. Okay. The Pike or whatever it's called deal should be canceled, period. Okay.
Well, you know what? And I hate to do it like this, but everybody on the social saying right now that, Lincoln is chief investigator. Mr. Bean, leader of the COI, I invite you to do your due diligence. Go through the Pike deal, bring the specifics to the public. Everybody else saying you're good at investigating. I'm inviting you to investigate this.
I don't think there's many secrets. It's it's a sweet deal for certain people.
People listening to Guardian Radio right now, please send text messages to your leader. I think you to be president or something like that. Send a message to him right now.
What now?
Invite him to do a thorough investigation of this.
Soon to be what?
Pike. That's what they call him. They call him soon to be president.
Of what?
I assume a Republic of the Bahamas of some sort. I don't know.
Oh my.
But that's what they call it. So I invite them to invite him to do a thorough investigation. He could continue on the Sabas thing, but while you're doing that, give some information on this BPL.
What is there to investigate? The usual suspects got a sweet deal. Remember, a lot of them invested in this, and it'd be very special to invest. The same people that are in everything, and they'll be fine.
The public, he can clarify what the former linemen at BPL are not doing. It's been suggested that they're either washing cars or fixing walls. He could probably tell us specifically.
Checking meters.
Checking meters. That too. He can tell us. So, COI, please invite Mr. Bain to do exactly
Again,
that.
I don't know if we need that. We already know that's what does BPL do? They don't do anything else, so that's all that there is to do.
He could probably go live at 5 and tell us what's going on.
Okay, so you see, you all only believe it when certain people tell you. That's what's going on. That's another problem. But But we will move on. This person says here, the previous caller isn't the only one. I have a friend as well who has a newly built home. BPL had generated last year, but never informed them. Then, when they got their occupancy and went to turn their light on, they found out about the bill and was told that a new bill had to be generated because Bahamas Grid is now handling all new installations. They are still waiting to this day to have their lights turned on. They were ready to move in from late October. Wow.
You trying to tell me Mr. Man can't get to the bottom of that?
Wow. Pike is not working. All their vehicles are parked in Mount Pleasant. From power secure days, I went off grid. Wow. Well, good for you.
That's one of the guys forget about power secure.
How can we send our professional BPL workers to fix Jamaica after Melissa and leave New Providence, but still in shambles with no workmen? The government is I'm editing this, making me angry. That's not what they wrote. Please, for the love of God, stop taking people's words before we investigate, because people are saying anything in this silly season. To get power, you better investigate these people. Okay, sure.
What is that text?
I don't know what they're talking about. So they're not believing the people who are calling in to say about these things. Your caller on her BPL problems mentioned a name. Okay. Wow. Somebody says good Lord. How much would you pay to become Prime Minister of the Bahamas? Reflect on it and let me know, please. What is this text about? How much would
I pay?
What?
Or how much would I expect to be paid?
Yeah. What type of text is this? How much would you pay to be Prime Minister of the Bahamas?
Well, I mean, if you look at it the way things currently operate, because they say, getting into politics is a fast way to other things. I guess if you could pay to make money. Yeah, let's leave it there. I got it. Good text.
Okay. This texture says a local government will not work. You need to remove the corruption. The checks and balances, question mark. You mean paper tigers like IRCA and the data commissioner and the police commissioner and parliamentary registrar, independent prosecutors, et cetera, et cetera? All right. So, again, this is all you're saying is the Bahamas is indeed the most special and most corrupt country in the entire world. That's what you all believe? That's what they, obviously, because it works.
I think legal counsel for one of our former police officers said that. I don't think we said that as a public.
It won't work here, but everywhere, almost everywhere else. And when there are issues, you've seen it before. You all say that you don't see enough of your officials getting trotted before the courts, but governors and whatever's charged and sentenced to prison because of their crimes. Where they have real local government, municipal government. But you say it won't work here and question why we don't see responses and reactions and justice. So who has the problem? Who is the problem? Answer that. It won't work here because you don't want it to work. You don't want people to be held accountable. You don't want that. That's why it won't work.
I would say it like this, Dwight. I don't think they don't want it to work.
Oh.
I think people are so enthralled with the frustrations of their day-to-day life. I think the general everyday Bahamian is so exhausted by trying to survive under the extreme cost of living that they can't even begin to focus on the bigger problem of governance.
Okay. So when people have the conversations, keep your mouth shut then. They won't work. You focus on what's bothering you.
That's 80% of the country?
Okay. Stay out of this.
Wow.
Because you keep telling us certain things. You keep complaining about the same thing over and over and over for decades. All of these conversations we're having, beaches and parks, roads, even the electricity hookup for your houses, they're all related. And we keep having to go back to cabinet ministers and MPs who tell us we already issued a statement on that. That's all we have to say, right? And we're supposed to be satisfied with those answers. There is a better way. There is. We got to go to the news. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Stay with us.
Put more money back in your pocket with a Fidelity debt consolidation loan. Why pay more when you can pay less? Reduce your monthly debt payments down to one low, easy payment. Apply for a Fidelity debt consolidation loan today. Call 356-7764.
Fidelity, we're good for you.
At Star General, you can go gold. Comprehensive car insurance covers loss or damage from accidents, fire, theft. The Gold Package gives you increased coverage for rental car and windscreen, personal accident, medical benefits, deductible waiver, and 24-hour roadside assistance where available. Our Star General Gold Package also gives you up to $2,500 for accidental damage to a rental car anywhere in the Bahamas. Go gold with Star General. Insurance made simple.
Wake up, it's a new day.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Blend Business on this Friday, April 24th, 2026. Welcome back to our Morning Blend listeners. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan along with Ricardo Wells, and it's a special edition of our show today, our monthly series with Clifton Heritage Authority, as our history series every fourth Friday each month. And as usual, from Clifton Heritage, we're very happy to have back with us Christopher Davis, and we have a special guest as well this morning from the Antiquities Monuments and Museums Corporation. We have Chief Archaeologist and Research Officer Dr. Grace Turner. Good to have you all back with us. Good morning again.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so we've got a very interesting topic today. Christopher Davis talking about slavery in the Bahamas and Clifton and Wiley and all that stuff. But before we get into it, we get that question every month. People saying, why are we looking back? Why are we always talking about slavery? What's all this slavery talk? We need to even.
Well, I'll touch on it, of course, and I'll let Dr. Turner give her thing, and it's something I always reiterate, right? Of course, our history as people of African descent is important to note. It doesn't begin with slavery, right? But slavery, of course, particularly in the context of us being in these Western nations, is actually a huge part of it. When you look at it in its totality, it actually was not that long ago. And it has huge ramifications today, where we look at economic disparity, and that's between individuals and citizens on one level, to the level where you see it between nations, where nations of African descent tend to be on the lower rung and lack political control. Slavery is really all about economics and racism and all these other things that came out of it. It's a part of our identities today, where we want to accept it and not. When I have kids there and we try to, especially introducing them to slavery, I like to use myself. Last name is Davis. This was an Irish a man in Old Bight Kid Island, Jacob Davis, who migrated and all of these things. But obviously, I don't look Irish at all.
Right.
Even though I did my DNA test and I get a little too much in me, I ain't gonna say the percentage.
You can't tease us like that. You got to tell us.
All right, 14%. 14% Irish, but ain't no Irish people that's being my family reunion, And of course, sometimes people conflate it with sort of hatred towards another people and all these things. But to deal with any issue, as we strive to be a great nation, to be Bahamians, slavery is a massive part of that. I also serve under Madam Chair Dr. Niambi on the Reparations Committee as well. And for those who think that it doesn't have any ramifications today, you could just at this point, you could do basic Google and chat GTP searches, and it will live. And then, of course, last and not least, we take a wrong view of slavery. Is often focused on just the tragedy and the whippings, and it does something to your self-esteem to know that your ancestors suffered through something like that. But when you look at it through economics and how it contributed to the development of nations like the United States, most of the nations of Western Europe, and every single nation in the Americas, how it ties into the genocide of indigenous Americans and all of these things. And to put it truthfully, putting on my Pan-African hat, the lack of political power that we as African nations, whether you're talking about Caribbean or nations in Africa or the diaspora, this is one of the reasons we lack this political authority, economic stability in the world today, has a direct link to the transatlantic slave trade, the colonial and imperial periods.
Yeah, wow. Dr. Sherman, what do you say to people who why are we dwelling on this?
Well, as Christopher was saying, since the late 1700s, something like more than 80% of our people are predominantly of African descent. Sometimes it's like there is no racial category like that. Sometimes people still try to steer away from the African heritage. Yeah. So that's why I tell them, if you do your DNA, you will find that you are predominantly African descendant. That is something you cannot deny. And if it's something you can't deny, you can't change it, you must deal with it.
Yeah.
And not all African people who came to the Bahamas came as slaves, but all who left the coast of Africa were intended to be enslaved. So regardless of how our ancestors would have got here, that is a legacy we must acknowledge and deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So, to our discussion for today, slavery in the Bahamas and Clifton. We've talked about it before on the show that people have some interesting perspectives on how slavery went here that might not be right. Based on what you've shared with us over the years, Chris.
Yes,
There were some harsh conditions and people were treated
100%.
very, very poorly to the point where we had a great role to play in the abolition of slavery.
100%. Yeah. You know. Well, we speaking specifically, we could take it specific to the Clifton plantation
Yes.
as well, right? And Dr. Turner and I, we've even having brief discussions out there before. And one thing, opinion that we sort of share in this overlook, you know, because William Wiley, when you come out to Clifton, I always sort of explain and use William Wiley as this example of misconstrued into believing that slavery was milder, you know, his paternalistic outlooks and all of that. You know, he was saying things like, oh, I will allow them to grow their own food. Well, that's so he don't have to pay to feed them, right? I will allow them to have families. Well, that's one, to increase his capital, and two, if it's just two men together, they could fight and whoever win. But families also tied you to these plantations and sort of lessened your revolutionary resolve, right? And then, of course, we have our personal beliefs today. And we would see him say things like, oh, well, everyone have to be baptized and all of these things. And we don't see it for what it was at the time, 200 years ago. People being forcibly brought over from Africa and forced into religions and of course, at the expense of their own culture. Though, of course, much of that was retained, which is one of the things we continue to celebrate still today. And so that's sort of the gist of it, you know. And one of those incidents that I would hope Dr. Turner would expound a little bit on, too, is called the Wiley Affair, right? And this is one where I ain't get too much in it, but at the end of the day, his own and she took up arms to, quote unquote, protect him, right? And this is one of the ways they try to portray William Wiley and put him on the pedestal as this example of a, quote unquote, old quote, benevolent slave master, right? Yeah.
Wow. Okay, Dr. Turner, tell us more.
Okay, so the Wiley Affair. William Wiley was the Attorney General for the Bahamas, and this is like 1815, 1816, but it's after the British Parliament abolished the slave trade. So one of the issues, after the abolition of the slave trade in 1807, no more Africans were supposed to be brought to the Americas from Africa. And so that meant, and they'd campaigned for that, that meant the ones you had, you needed to treat them a lot better. And there was legislation to, you call them the Amelioration Acts, to ensure that their living and working conditions were better. Now, in our 21st century mind, that still was very bad. These people were still legally slaves.
Wow.
But it was to improve the situation. And another part of that, too, was the registration of slaves. This was not an idea that came up in the colonies. This was an order that came from the British government in London to their West Indian colonies to pass legislation to register enslaved persons in each colony at least every 3 years.
Why did they want to do that?
Because there was a lot of slave smuggling. It was a means. It sounds like Chris was saying. It sounds at one point. It sounds as if they're being benevolent, but really there is an issue behind it. But there was a lot of slave smuggling. For the Bahamas, you literally were not supposed to move slaves between islands without written permission from the governor, and but the colonial legislations were each supposed to pass these laws for their colony. Trinidad, I think, was one of the first ones. Theirs was 1812. The Bahamas didn't pass their own until 1820. We were the last British colony.
Well, why is that not surprising?
Yeah. And William Wiley, the legislation was coming up in the House. William Wiley was on the Legislative Council. That would have been equivalent to the cabinet today, advising that. And William Wiley, he was taking a self-righteous tone for them, like, oh, really, archaeologically, the slave houses he had at his plantation were the best built, the highest quality. That's why they still survive today. His slaves lived in decent housing. As Chris said, he allowed them to grow their own food. It was cheaper for him. But he did also allow them any excess they had. They could use the plantation boat to sail to Nassau to sell it. And so it gave his slaves a bit more leeway than they would have had in other places.
So sail to Nassau, that would have been the best way to
yeah, that
get
was
it
the fastest
there.
way.
Wow.
By walking, by that, it would have been 3 or 4 days, depending on the weather and the route that you
walking,
take. Yeah.
With the traffic now, that might still be easy to sail.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
and there was no continuous road.
Right, okay.
The part of the road was his public road that went the whole way. Well, this was the background. And so he was being self-righteous with them, and they were like, we tired of you. And there was this debate and this dispute that came up. And he wrote to the African Institute in London to back him up. The House of Assembly took great offense at that. They're like, how dare you? you denigrating the name of this house. And so they started a case against him. The speaker issued a warrant for him, and they sent a messenger to issue that warrant to him.
Wow.
And he was out there. He had word coming from his slaves that they saw this man coming with this warrant, because the questions around. And he said he in the carriage house. The carriage house was right near the gate to his house. And he explained, he said he had this cache of weapons because the British in the 1790s and 1812, they had a U.S. 1790s was the Napoleonic War. So there were a number of wars around that Britain was involved in. And he said the governor had included some muskets. He didn't say how many. Some muskets, a small cannon, and ammunition for them. And so he is saying he had these weapons already. He issued them to some of his slaves and left them to stand guard at the gate. And he had the gate locked, and he left them with orders to not let this messenger in, because he figured if he got in, he would have authority to search the house, because in the meantime, he had them saddle up his horse. And he gone the back road and went to his Waterloo plantation that would have been out on the Eastern Road near Montague now. He went there because if he was there and the man came in, they were going to arrest him. And he did have to show up to court for contempt. Well, the governor at the time was really an acting governor. He was the president of this legislative council. He had sent this back and forth to the Secretary of State for Colonies in London. That was the guy who all the governors reported to. This man sent back a dispatch saying he agreed with the court, because the court said that William Wiley, as a representative of His Majesty's government, the House did not have the authority to convict him and have him in prison. And the Secretary of State in London said he agreed with the court that, that did not go over well in the House. They were pretty much like, how dare he is disgracing their name. He shouldn't be on the Legislative Council. And they pretty much said, tell Lord Bathurst he has no authority to tell this House what to do.
Wow.
Yeah. But in the aftermath of all of that, within a year or two, because by this time it's 1818, within a year or two, the Slave Registration Act for the Bahamas is passed. But by 1821-22, William Wiley leaves the Bahamas and goes to St. Vincent. He took some of his slaves, but about half of them he left, and he had a free black man,
James Rutherford.
Rutherford.
Yeah, James Rutherford.
Who was his main overseer. Rutherford took on the Wiley slaves who remained. Rutherford was one of the founding trustees of St. John's Native Baptist Church in town. So, even though William Wiley left, and William Wiley, you may try to present him as being this benevolent, but it's not that he was so benevolent. All of the things that he was doing may have benefited his slaves, but they benefited him more.
Right.
So his benevolence isn't as benevolent as you.
And why did he go to St. Vincent? Why did he leave?
He left, but things in the Bahamas, number one, our plantations were no longer profitable because cotton was our big cash crop. That was no longer profitable. St. Vincent, Trinidad, and was now Guyana were the newest British colonies they had acquired like in the 1790s and being given out. And it was already known that that land was far more prosperous for production than the Bahamas.
Yeah.
So it's like recalibrating, resetting the needle for him, for his profitability. So because that's why he left. And a number of other loyalist plantation owners were leaving. He was one who stayed longer because he had this big position. But after the big fight with the house, it was like, forget y'all, I go into St. Vincent.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
And even with Wiley, to add to Dr. Turner's point about not being sure that we don't sort of portray him as having this benevolence, right? So even while he was having these political beefs, he would be sort of writing people up and charging them. So even within that, it sort of reveals like the daily lives on these plantations. So you would have had a lot of abuses that was going on that would have gone completely unchecked. And it sort of revealed how these fellas had like this kind of dolly house parliament that existed back then, right? And also with Wiley, it's funny because when he left, and many of the enslaved people that were left behind, some of them ended up being sold, for example, to John Smith in Exuma, Reagan Salt, and of course the infamous Henry and Helen Moss as well. There were about 8 of them ended up there. And that is what he did to Boatswain and Chloe, sort of as punishment, because Chloe, Boatswain, and their 4 children had ran away. And they stayed away for quite some time too, and that seemed to annoy him. And so we also have, I found about 6 actually people who were enslaved at Clifton that would have run away, beginning from the 1780s on the Johnson plantation up to now, in one of the most important runaway stories, because they actually took refuge in what is now Bethel Baptist Church.
Oh, wow.
Right? So it showed you the role that some of these Baptist churches sort of played. But then you have to remember there was a lot of nuance too. And then race was quite different back then. So someone like James Rutherford, they described him as quote unquote a mulatto, which didn't necessarily always mean, as Dr. Turner would probably point out, that you had one white parent, one black parent, and often had to do with skin tone. However, it wasn't like back then where, for example, all 3 of us in this room are quote unquote black, and there isn't any like sort of racial differential. But back then, particularly in the survival, people were just trying not to be enslaved, essentially.
Right.
So if you're light skinned and you could pass, or you're light skinned and you could maneuver in society and do 1 or 2 things, But I would also say that, though, generally, though, you found that and it was few, let's not overplay the number of those, it was somewhere around 5 or 6% of mixed race enslavers in the Bahamas. But even there, you don't find many of the horrific stories that come out about abuse and stuff like that, and they don't have the same prevalence of people running away as you saw on the quote unquote white plantations.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just have 2 quick
Ricardo?
questions. First question is, how big was the Clifton plantation at the time? Because I'm just trying to imagine it like in a modern day, size-wise.
Okay. So it was, let's say, it was exactly 1,245 acres. You could say 1,250. Some of the records define, but it was about that. And initially, it was actually 4 plantations. So it was built by John Wood, the one that we call the Great House now that you would see on the main road. As long as the initial dwellings, I think it was expanded under Wiley, but it was built by John Wood. His brother-in-law was Louis Johnston with a T. So you had this group of Johnstons with a T that came as loyalists, separate than the Johnsons that we know from Eleuthera that were generally pre-loyalists, right? And then you had Thomas Ross. There was some confusion whether that was Moss or Ross, but it seems that there was a Thomas Ross, and he wasn't actually Thomas Moss, who would have been the brother or cousin of Henry Moss. But the big name that was there, and the man that got the biggest grant in that area was actually a man named William Lyford. And we know who that name would ring, and that name Lyford rings. And most of Clifton, what was the Clifton plantation, is now actually encompassed by what is now Lyford Key, and partially even the power plant. That was like John Wood's land, right? And then when Wiley bought it in the early 1800s, it wasn't a one transactional thing, but eventually he ended up owning all of that too. And Wiley was certainly a man who was known as quote unquote, him to have no problem sort of abusing his authority. He was one of those that, particularly relative to others, did pretty well in the Bahamas. Got a lot of land. His plantation at Clifton sort of was like the big subsistence farm almost. So like a lot of the corn that was consumed, a lot of the meats that were consumed right here in New Providence would have come from his plantation as well. Yeah.
So not just cotton. They were doing
right.
But cotton was the big cash crop.
Export.
Right.
For export. But you
That leads
also
me
needed
into
to
my-
eat.
That
So
leads me into my
there's food
second
production
question.
for your enslaved people.
All right, Ricardo.
Yeah, that leads me into my second question because I just feel like every time I hear stories about that time frame and what Western New Providence was kind of shaped and built to be at that time, why haven't we seen any movies, any plays, any creative that speak to that specific time in New Providence?
This is something I personally would love to see. And I would speak even to people, unfortunately, you would even see, I ain't gonna call the name of the show, but there's even a show that came out that I was involved with briefly the other day, where it's based on a movie, on a book initially called Bad Monkey. That's the name of the show, season 1. I let it get out the bag a little bit. But as much, the book itself was a little racist, to be frank, right? They portrayed this Andress Obi woman in a very unsatisfying, and I had to, of course, explain to them, what is called Obia, a mixture of respectable African traditions, but a lot of it is what we do, things like bush medicine, misunderstandings and all that, and then when I saw the show, I couldn't even finish it because it was just like, what you all even asked me anything for,
And I haven't watched it, but I heard
and yes, and there's another thing where these stories, particularly when we're talking about slavery, we've been very heavily conditioned to do that. I often hear people say things like, oh, well, they don't teach us our real history. And my question to them is always be like, well, when last have you visited a museum? It's not like we in an ivory tower, like all these people are accessible. Dr. Grace Turner, I ain't trying to get no swarm to you, but she is a person who is accessible and is always more than happy to share her wealth of knowledge, as am I, But the movies, and I agree, that's the direction that we should go. I also work very, very closely with Dr. Pateman, and he always actually says this. He says that one of the most effective ways, you need the academic stuff, of course, you need the peer-reviewed articles and all that, but if you want to actually get stories entrenched into the national psyche of people, movies, plays, television series is what you need. I've been trying to push for someone, Netflix, to let's do this big time mini-series on the life of John Canoe and how that spread throughout and all these Akan revolutionaries and all of that. That could be like a Pan-African Game of Thrones right there.
We've got a million stories here. A million stories. Right. Ricardo, you got to write it. I'll help you. We got to let's write the movie.
Yeah.
We have to do it on our own.
And it's better that we do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honest, right?
Absolutely.
Because I just think so much of what happened on those 4 plantations that kind of became one, it kind of shaped what ended up being the Bahamian emancipation. So I think that's such a tremendous, trove to dive into to kind of help people understand why emancipation was shaped the way it was in the Bahamas.
Oh yeah, certainly. And even emancipation in itself was something where, for example, you might have heard this rumor that persists, particularly in the Family Islands. Using myself as an example, I have a godfather who had a bar in Port Howe, and on the wall, she chuckling because I think she knew where I going. It was a picture of Queen Victoria.
Oh my!
And I remember, and I asked him, I was like, at this time I was coming into my Pan-Africanism, and I said, man, Uncle, why y'all get Queen Victoria on the wall? And he kind of chastised, oh, you all young fellas, y'all need to learn your history. You all know Queen Victoria freed the slaves. Right, so we've heard these things, and that came out of this thing where she went to Nathan Rothschild's, got this huge loan. And of course, this is sort of becoming well-known fact now that our enslavers were actually compensated.
Mm-hmm.
So the British government essentially almost purchased us from them to,
Wow.
to smooth things over, to make sure they were economically
That's quite a way to
sound.
put it.
Right, exactly. They tried to twist it as great philanthropy. Oh, look at them. They spent all this money to free the slaves. And as we know, the British taxpayer was paying this up until about 2015, right? And so this is, and again, back to the first state point you made about why is it not important to talk about slavery and all of these things. And then it leads us to these things like reparations. It's a supremely complex issue, as we know. But in my view, we have certain figures we could go for, though. And that 22 billion, and we could work it out proportionately. It ain't hard to do. All we need is one basic economist to do that. And that's a round figure that the Bahamas could get, Antigua could get, Jamaica could get, just like that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
my view on it, yeah.
All right, again, we're talking with Christopher Davis with Clifton Heritage and Dr. Grace Turner with AMMC. All right, so let's talk about the long-term ramifications of all of this. What happened with Wiley and Clifton, and after he left, and the plantation, and where we are today.
Oh, well, so Wiley left. James Rutherford, he had a brother. Wiley's brother was also a lawyer, Alexander Wiley. So the property remained with the Wiley family for a time, but then the property began to change hands. And at one point, this would have been in the 1850s, because some of the slaves and their descendants were still working the land, pretty much as tenant farmers. They were growing corn. And it made big headlines in The Guardian. They were burning the corn to harvest it, and burning the field would get rid of the brush quickly, but it got out of control and it burned the house. That's what caused the main house to be in the state it was.
Oh, boy.
And for our tourists, because we had tourists, not to the scale we have today, but we had a stream of visitors from at least the 1820s. And it's like today, our historic sites and points of interest were the big tourist spots. On Clifton, it was a day's to travel from Nassau, to Clifton. So it was a huge thing, and that is part of the reason why it made such news in the newspaper when the house was burnt. And once the house was burnt, that part of the property was we know that the house was never rebuilt, reclaimed, but the descendants of slaves continued living in the slave houses until the 1950s at least. We know that because in the archaeology in the 1990s, coins dating to the 50s were found in some of the slave houses.
So did the children, they go to schools, and the rest of, schools would be very far.
Intimate school.
You're right, rent-to-pay schools.
Exactly.
But so that just wasn't a thing.
No,
No.
that wasn't so much a thing, but what it was, because it was the people at Clifton, and it's now included in Albany. It was a part of the Gulf Coast when it was the hotel out there. There was another plantation around the point there. That one was owned by an Edwards. He had died by the early 1800s, and his children moved away, and it seems, from the archaeology, it seems his enslaved people stayed on the site, because to them, for the white owners, because the plantation was not as profitable, it meant the land wasn't as valuable. And that was a blessing in disguise for the Bahamas. The Bahamas, the highest percentage of descendants of former slaves who now legally own property, because at one point that property had no value.
Wow.
And so the white owners were not paying as much attention to the value of the land, and therefore the people working the land. And so these slaves would quite often be abandoned on that land. And this Edwards plantation, that's now part of the Albany property, you could see from the archaeology, they parted off the main house and made that like 2 or 3 different apartments. They adjusted one of the storage buildings, made that a house. But some of the older people from Adelaide Village could tell us that the people who lived in those houses were not from Adelaide. And they continued living there until the 20s, because we had a couple of bad hurricanes in the 20s. The roofs were destroyed. The roofs were blown off. And these were shingle roofs, because these were houses of the owner, not the slaves. The enslaved people, you could go get thatch out of the bush, but the shingles were always imported.
Right.
So once those roofs were destroyed, these people are poor people. They didn't have. By the 20s, that was the time when a lot of, especially black Bahamians, were moving to Florida to find cash-earning work. And, within a couple of years, the government reclaimed that land. They they made the strategic decision not to reclaim the land earlier because the descendants of those slaves were living there.
Right.
For the government to step in, because if the legitimate owners, and I put that in air quotes, abandon the property after a certain amount of years, and that's why William Wiley could acquire so much land. If the previous owner left, someone else could come in and apply and get title to it.
Right.
If none of those owners are around, it should ultimately revert to the government of the country. But if there are people who could, in British law, you have the squatters' rights, the legal recognition of squatters' rights. So for the government to go in to claim that, and these people were descendants of people who had been enslaved there, that meant they had rights to it. The government waited until they left before they reclaimed it. And once you have left, if you are only relying on squatters' rights, you cannot come back. But if you have legal title, you could come back and show your title.
Right.
So that kind of thing also happened in the Bahamas. And by the time you get to the 30s, with Harry was allowed to acquire pretty much the western half of New Providence.
Yeah, right.
And because of how he died, his estate pretty much lay dormant pretty much for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
In terms of archaeology and historic preservation, that has worked well for us, but that it has meant that the western end of New Providence is much less developed than the eastern end because it was controlled by one owner who was not Bahamas government.
My goodness. And again, you said a lot of the descendants left for the States, and some, I guess, moved to other parts of New Providence.
And then, basically absorbed into the common, as Nassau became more metropolitan over time.
Right.
All this population growth, people moving around.
And you wouldn't want to commute, work out downtown and then come back all the way to Western New Providence. That would not have worked.
That's more than a day's commute.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why the Carmichael village no longer existed, because that was in the middle of the island. All the others are on the coast.
Right.
You could sail. But if you needed to get, because Blue Hill Road was there from the 1790s, but Carmichael Road went in probably in the 1950s or later.
Wow.
So that was several miles to walk through bush, and most of these people would not have had shoes. Their feet would have been hard, but still rough traveling.
Yeah.
And you toting things on your head.
This was a big island back in the day, it seems, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
That's at least half a day traveling one way. So to go back, that's a full day or more. So within a year or so, that you don't have to be able to read and write to know what makes sense. You live right over the hill. You travel a couple minutes and you in town rather than at least a day or so. It's that kind of thing. And for Clifton and Gambia and Adelaide, all you needed was a little dinghy. It'll take you several hours, convenient, than having to use the road.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So a lot of people.
That's why I said. Western New Providence is a really good story to tell. Right around that 150 year stretch. That's a really good story.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, certainly. And again, it kind of lets you know where we sort of came from as well. Excuse me. And this is something that's kind of special, not unique necessarily, but special about the Bahamas. it's something that we should have a strong sort of nationally unified view toward, right? And as we know, every single black person in the Bahamas probably have a story, but how, it's where, because you talk to any family, it's their family that own all the land, and it's a lot of misunderstandings that goes in. And we could draw some parallels with places like the United States, right? Where you also saw enslaved people sort of stuck on land, you know what I mean? But in the Bahamas, at least they were able to use things like squatters' rights and stuff like that to acquire said land. And to this day, you still have Bahamians that benefit from these things, particularly certain families and the Rolls out of Exuma. And they even had, of course, a revolt that you could sort of say was directly or indirectly involved in all of this as well. Because the Rose was causing a lot of trouble during that period, what they call the apprenticeship period, particularly from 1834 to 1838. You had British colonial officials saying they were the quote-unquote most disagreeable in the whole West Indies, right? And so things that frustrated the absentee owner. So this was different than the local Bahamian loyalists. These absentee owners, some of them, of course, still made a lot of money in the Bahamas. But when you had other families like Rule, they had all kind of other things going on. And yes, they made money at one point. I think he made like £70,000 or something like that. I see a statistic from Creighton and Saunders' book, if I remember correctly. But at the end of the day, these enslaved Rose frustrated him greatly. And by the time, it ain't like he put it in the will like people say. He just was pretty much, it's this long rumor, and I descended from the Rules. And I always, Lord John Rule willed his land. No, he ain't no will nothing. He's like, boy, thank God this over. He's tired of these disagreeable rules down there. It was actually kind of the opposite of the story that seemed to prevail. He was neglectful from the start. When he realized it wasn't making him too much more money, he saw it as a huge inconvenience. And of course, those rules then, I don't like to use squatted in terms of generational property. It's more complex than that and more. But at the end of the day, these are the things that we as Bahamians did why we could be proud of, why you should talk about slavery.
Right.
Your plantation was in Rum Key.
Right.
We done talk about that before, and you all burned down your great master house too. So I know what y'all's doing over there.
Showing you how to do things. All right, so we got less than 2 minutes. Really quickly, we almost lost Clifton to another high fancy development, but we saved at the last minute there. Let's talk about that and how that came to be for those who don't remember. This is a very recent story.
Well, I'll just touch quick. I know that you had that whole Save the Base thing and all these things was going on. Essentially, they wanted to turn it into another highfalutin gated community.
Right.
You have people like Vivian Wiley, who was directly descended from Cujo Wiley, who was a recaptive African that lived among the enslaved master stonemason. He put his hands on many of those homes. And so it was a lot of that, and I'm sure Dr. Turner would like to close this out.
Yeah, so I worked with the archaeologists there because the archaeology was in advance of the proposed development. And the archaeologists did a report on the Clifton site, and something that may not be as well known is our first known stacked archaeology site where you can find archaeological remains of several different periods of occupation in the Bahamas, going back to the Lucayans.
My goodness.
But the government at the time had already committed to allowing it to be developed. And where I work, we would have still had limited access, kind of like Lyford Key, but it was the public protests that helped convince a new government that came in that we needed to do something with this. And so Clifton becomes the first National Heritage Park for the Bahamas. We have the environmental parks, but this is the first heritage park. Now, the land for that encompasses most of the remains. It doesn't encompass all of the remains.
Boy.
Right. Some still have to be acquired. I won't go into details.
But work is going on with that? Or
kind of.
Sounds like a complicated story.
Yeah, complicated, but yeah.
All right. Is it the only heritage site now, or are we?
Yeah, the only official one.
But they're more than should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But it's the only official one. again, kind of based on the stories Dr. Turner was telling, a lot of it was changing hands. You had a lot, particularly during the colonial period in the early 20th century. When you see how people like Harry Oakes and those came to own all of this land, that was actually his family who the land had to be acquired from. And in 2004 to 2005, this is when the Clifton Heritage Authority, they get the green paper, the white paper, or whatever direction it goes. Clifton Heritage Authority Act was fully passed, and people like Dr. Turner helped us to realize the full history of the area. Excellent. And like she says, I often tell people, we have a history there that goes back around the full millennium. When you consider and new archaeology even more now is bringing the arrival of the Lucayans potentially even further back. I even see some saying some of them talking about BC times and all now, but I can wait for the experts like Dr. Turner to say what it is, and then I can come as the historian and tell the story.
That is very exciting. Oh, man, this has been great. Texter, as we get ready to take a break, this person says here, good morning and hats off and standing ovations to your guests. Very informative and knowledgeable of the history of these islands. Better than any Netflix movie. Really enjoyed this presentation. Kudos to Guardian Radio for bringing it too.
Thank you.
This has been a lot of fun.
Yes,
Thank you
Come and
so
see
much.
us at Clifton Heritage National Park.
Remind folks how they can do that.
Of course, you could visit our website. We have a specific educational program. If you have a group of students, any civic organizations, or you can still bring the kids and take a regular heritage tour. After you take any tour, you have full access to the park, so you could spend the rest of the day on some of our very historic beaches. But of course, we have some rules out there. You got to watch out for the fowl and fauna, of course, and too much digging and no fires and all that, because we still have many sensitive archaeological areas. There's one or two areas where you won't be able to really do much, but at the end of the day, this park belongs to you, and come out and share in your own heritage and revel in the greatness of the Bahamas.
Wonderful stuff. Again, Christopher Davis with Clifton Heritage and Dr. Grace Turner with AMMC. Always a delight to have you all on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take a quick break and then be back to wrap things up. This is 6.9.
Hey folks, thanks for your patience. We'll be taking off very shortly. You should be wheels up in about 40 minutes. And due to a bumpy ride, snacks and beverage service has been suspended. AC has given us some trouble. Sorry folks. And Wi-Fi is out. And so is the entertainment. Yeah, I'm sorry about the smell, folks. We are aware.
I know.
Just one more quick note. We are going to have to deplane.
Come on! We're like the plane ride that isn't a nightmare. CG Atlantic agents and brokers. Good like that.
Planning for retirement can be overwhelming, but with CFAL, it doesn't have to be. We offer tailor-made individual, group, and pension solutions that take the guesswork out of retirement planning. Whether it's for you or your company, don't leave your future to chance and let the trusted hands of CFAL's experts guide you toward peace of mind and financial stability. Low upfront costs and affordable monthly payments make it easy for you to build wealth so you can live well. Visit us at cfal.com to start on your path toward financial freedom. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations.
CFAL is a proud sponsor of Team Bahamas for the 2026 Carifta
The
Games.
following is a paid political message.
Kalani. Whoa. Hey. Kalani. Oh, the future is brighter. Oh, vote for my diver. Hey, 'cause she is a fighter. Hey, the future is brighter. Oh, if you need improvement, come join the movement. Come join the movement. Hey, you're looking for change, find it here. You're looking for justice, find it here. You're looking for truth, find it here. Vote for MacGyver. She's here for you. See everybody in Kalani. Change is here. Hey, hands in the air. See everybody in Kalani. Vote for MacGyver. She is a fighter.
That was a paid political message.
It is time for your morning business report brought to you by CFAL. Both Bahamar and Atlantis revealing strong first quarter results and occupancy rates during the Bahamas Hotel and Tourism Association's Board of Directors and membership meeting yesterday. Bahamar President Graham Davis calling the resort's first quarter fantastic, his word, adding that the second quarter is trending in a similar direction. Davis says that the factors supporting the resort's positive numbers include increased airlift from Canada. He said global tensions are also supporting travel to the Bahamas as it's seen as a safe destination. Meanwhile, Nassau Cruise Port reporting strong first quarter results with passenger volumes growing by 15% from 1.6 million to 1.8 million, while ship calls increased 5.5%. NCP saying in a statement that it entered 2026 with significant momentum, delivering a stronger first quarter across nearly every key performance metric. CEO Mike Mora Jr. says that the port's performance is a result of partnerships and its appeal as a premier cruise destination. Morton Bahamas has announced cost-cutting measures, including a reduction in jobs and the social benefits programs provided to employees. Chief Administrative Officer Brad Bacon and General Counsel at Morton Bahamas telling Guardian Business that after weathering 7 months of no production and another 7 months of limited production without laying off a single employee or reducing community benefits, Morton has reached the point where it can no longer avoid taking action to reduce its costs. It says that the cost reduction measures actioned by the company, including a reduction in jobs and the social benefits provided, are designed to give the Inagua business the best chance of remaining a viable operation. It says that if these measures do not improve its competitive position, then Morton Bahamas will explore additional cost reduction strategies, including a suspension or closure of the operation. President of the Bahamas Industrial Manufacturers and Allied Workers Union, Richard Ingram, telling Guardian Business that after confirming the company's intention to make 75% of its staff redundant, that the union was blindsided by the announcement from the company's management. More on that in today's Guardian Business section. And F&M leader Michael Pintard lambasting the government's spending on the Golden Yoke program, castigating the PLP's government for touting the program as a success without having any eggs on food store shelves as proof. Pintard telling F&M supporters during a rally in Mangrove Key, Andros, Wednesday that the government has spent between $50 and $60 million on the Golden Yoke program. Pintard hitting out at the government after Guardian Business revealed that BAIC has begun harvesting eggs from the Golden Yoke program's layer chicks. In your Market Watch, recapping trading on your market movers, Consolidated Water closing up 10 cents to $6.81. Emira Incorporated up 24 cents, closing at $12.81. The Pacific Salt Share Index closing at 3,196.19, up 0.33. That's your Market Watch, and that is your morning business report brought to you by CFAL, growing wealth for future generations. And that is going to do it for us today. Ricardo Wells, thank you so much for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Dwight, as usual.
Talk with you again soon. And Chester Robards will be with you here on Monday. I'll be back a little bit later next week. Have a great, safe weekend, everybody. Stay tuned for On the Clock with Aaron Green next.
Try to rest, roll with the best. For all your printing needs, there ain't no one better, no. For posters and banners, magazines and flyers. For window decals, greeting cards and newsletters. No job too big and there's no job too small. You name it, we can print it. Just give us a call. Let Print Masters bring your masterpiece to life.
Located in the Nassau Guardian Building, telephone 302-2361.
Struggling to find your financial rhythm? Make that move to Fidelity and let us help you orchestrate your financial goals into perfect harmony with free financial. Make that move today. Call 356-7764.
Fidelity, we're good